Hello! How are we all doing? I wonder if I'm live. Bad words have just been said about PowerPoint, haven't they, Mike? Literally, never mind it was all right in rehearsals. It was all right 5 minutes ago. And then I came out of it, went back into it. Oh, threw all its toys out the pram. Slides on the wrong screen. All kinds of stuff. So, am I live yet, Mike? Or am I just talking to myself? Oh, no, Carol can hear me. Excellent. Oh, no, Mrs. Yarnell says she can hear a fan. It's not mine. Mike's just turned his off. Rattling away, wasn't it, Mike? Yeah, I'm doing without, and so's the computer, so I'm sure you can. Right, who was in first? Debbie! Hello, Debbie. Hello, Deb. Hello, Kim. We have Renee in the house. Excellent. Annie's with us. Is that a full complement of Deb's, I see? I think we're close. Right, who else have I got? Mrs. Yarnold, hello. And I did see Frankie. So, hello, Frankie. Don't want to miss anybody. Hello, Graham. I should put my glasses on, then I'd be able to see people, wouldn't I? Right, there we go. Oh, there's Frankie. Right. Just checking in. Oh, an exhibition. Sounds good. Tell us more. Right. So Frankie says there's a branch of the local camera club which uses Affinity Photo holding an exhibition. Excellent. Excellent. Hello, Carol. Carol said she only just made it. We'd have waited for you. We would. There you go. Right. Who else have I got in here? Paul. Hello, Paul. Good morning. Living in the future, as ever. Right. Have I caught up now? I think I have. Oh, no, I haven't. Hang on. Pippa Scar. Hello. Good to have you with us. Right, have I? Oh no, Richard, I miss Richard. Sorry, Richard. Hello, Richard. I need bigger text on this. I've managed to dock it in a window. It's all to do with PowerPoint. Least said about PowerPoint, the better at the moment. It's got a mind of its own on the Mac. Let's just say that. Right, so hopefully you can see my screen. That's a good start. Let's see if we can see the agenda. Let's go for broke, shall we? Ooh, I think it might just be working, but I mustn't get too excited. Not good for me. Right, we have got MacWhisper. Who's heard of it? Who's seen it? Who's tried it? Then we've got part 2 of ForkLift. This is in response to some questions after last week's demo and some more advanced stuff that I was able to nail down this week. Then, we're calling this, we've already got a title for the show, haven't we? Whoa, we are ahead of ourselves. We're calling it After Hours by Request. Because all of these features, all of these things that we're demonstrating have been requests from you guys. So, we're doing searching browser tabs. Now, this involved more apps than I actually thought possible. But I will be leaving you with a really good way to search open browser tabs. Then we got the freebies, and then yours was a request, wasn't it, from last week, Mike?
Mine was.
And finally, we have the black hole, which every time you see my file system and there's a folder that says black hole, there is somebody new who's like, what's that? Doesn't it sound fascinating? Well, it's what we use for file transfer. But last week, Patience said she really liked the idea, but she's on Windows and can't do that. So we're taking the black hole and making it cross-platform and multi-user. We've got a special guest appearance, haven't we, later? Can't say any more at the moment. So that is what we're doing today. So anybody got any questions before we even get started? Right, okay. Let's head off then. If we haven't. Right. It was you last week, Richard, but everybody enjoys it, so we'll do it again. We're broadcasting 1080p. YouTube's lost its mind this week with me and has been offering me things at 360. Looks like it was filmed with a mobile phone in the late 90s. So make sure that you've got the red flash and 1080p. You will find the cog in the lower right-hand corner, very close to the like button. So you could hit that while you're at it. Right, so last Saturday. Let's head back in time to last Saturday. You may recall, I think it was the Thursday of last week, not yesterday, a week yesterday, and I did an update on my computer, and it's hairy scary because the monitors go off. They never went off on the iMac. So having done it, I thought, well, that's that for another month. Oh, silly me. Yes, I had such fun updating it. I did it all again on Saturday. Not by choice, I might add. It was a direly urgent system update, apparently. So I did my duty. That meant every other device needed updating too. So that was Saturday over with then. Seriously, there were 14 iPads, 3 phones, and all of the computers. So it was actually kick-off time by the time I'd finished. I decided I was going to watch the match. Wasn't exactly riveting, let's just say that. They staggered to a 1-1 draw with the Ukraine. In Poland, that was a bit weird, wasn't it? I'm presuming because it was an away match for England, but Ukraine couldn't play at home. So we all ended up in Poland. Sunday, as you know, recently we have been coding. We were coding again. 5 weeks was ludicrous. 5 years it's going to take. But I'd had enough. So I needed a break as well. So I headed off into Notion. Now, we were deep in Notion for an upcoming series. Can't say any more about that yet. And even though it was only Sunday, we headed off to record. We needed some early recording before a busy week. So Monday rocked round and Lola started the week very, very well. She strangely refused to go to the park, instead heading off to the local shops. Now that's where the robots live. So we were thinking she was after a robot. But it turned out to be a very wise choice on her part, because this is what she found. Brand new shop opening. If that's next to the chemist, Mike, which it is, a handy place for it to be honest, is that the newsagents as was?
It is, isn't it?
Because looking at it, if you look at the left-hand side of the window, there's a step, there's like a cutout. That's where the door used to be when we moved in here.
Oh.
So they moved that. At the very last time I went in there, they had buckets all over the floor because the roof was leaking. And I've not seen it since.
That,
yeah, I've not seen it since. But yes, sale reps and pets. So we're assuming reptiles. Oh, she's going to be in her element.
Yeah, it was a sandwich shop for about 6 months.
No, I haven't been out in that long. So anyway, Lola's now working out how to open an account so she can go shopping for herself. But you said it doesn't look like it's quite ready, even though it's supposed to be opening tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure Lola will drag you in.
In fact, it looked like that tonight.
Well, did he say what time they were opening?
No.
Well, maybe it's 5 o'clock. Who knows? Anyway, she was in her element. I went to my Plan My Week session, which was like, yes, I need something special this week. I need to bend the laws of time. This was because we needed to get MacBites out a day early. Hark at us, eh? A day early? Since when's that been a thing, Mike? But we did. Yes, we needed to get it out a day early. This was because we had a live show on Tuesday. So, dashed into the studio, recorded, dashed out of the studio, edited, and we were good to go. With not so politely declined. Now, I know from talking to you guys on Tuesday, most of you hadn't heard it. So I need to hear in the chat now, have you heard it? And if not, why not? If not, that's where you need to go to find it. I know I'm suspecting that Jammy has heard it, because as ever, when I announce it, I thought Jammy's going to be surprised. Yes, he thought he was tripping because it was a day early. But it was a whole day early, because on Tuesday it was the big event and we were live for it. In fact, it was busier than you could possibly imagine. It was the Wanderlust event. Mike had double booked himself. Initially, I thought you'd double booked yourself from 6 o'clock. So I thought you'd be able to do the entire show with me first. No, it's silly me. No, he double booked himself for 3 hours from 5 till 8, which was exactly when we were broadcasting live, but never mind. What I'd forgotten was, as the grand thing started, was that England were playing. Now, while sometimes I'm not that bothered, having watched the Ukraine one, I thought it could only get better. And it was Scotland. So that was on as well. I did manage to see the entire second half. Did you notice, though, even though the score was 3-1, we actually managed to score all 4 goals? Courtesy of Maguire, at least soon as mended. But obviously the big news of the night was the pink iPhone. Tell me nobody's ordered the pink one. Mind you.
Somebody's just said, Graham said in the chat he likes the pink one.
No, No. In fact, looking at those, I'm not overly keen on any of the pastel shades. The lemon's just no, isn't it? The green, I'm never taken with green. The only green that's ever been bearable was that really dark one, the camouflage one that young Johnny had. But they're all a little bit washed out as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, I'll bet you the black one sold out. I'll bet you it did. I'll bet you they got pink ones coming out of their ears. That was the standard one. And then, of course, there was the multiple shades of grey and a blue one for the Pro model. So let us know in the chat how that went. If you're wondering how our day went, all will be revealed in, wait for it, next week's MacBites. Sort of about planning ahead. Now, Wednesday, as we were recovering, the day didn't start too well locally. It was a simple matter of a milk delivery. How far wrong could it go? Well, I'm glad you asked. It certainly didn't end well. It was a tanker of milk on the motorway, just under a mile from our front door. It set on fire first and then exploded. And I have seen a video of it, and it went off like bonfire night. I thought, it's just a small fire, and then it exploded. So, isn't there a song, No Milk Today?
Oh, there is.
Yes, well,
yeah.
There was no milk on Wednesday. Wednesday evening, I was at my mastermind, so I went straight into that. But we're all right with milk, aren't we? Can we buy it in cartons? Yeah, I think it's fake. Well, it's not fake milk. What do you call it?
Long
skimmed.
life.
Skimmed.
Fake milk.
No, there's real milk, isn't there? That's like stirring tar, and then there's semi-skimmed, and then there's skimmed, which is just white water. Well, and that's the one we have.
No, I've got semi-skimmed.
Well, I won't be drinking that, will I? Because I only drink white water. Or water, indeed. Anyway, that was it. So, yes, it was in that session inspiration struck for next week's MacBites. That's twice I've said next week. Have you noticed? 6 days early. There must be something in the water. Obviously, it's not in the milk because we haven't got any. So, Thursday.
I couldn't have skim milk on my muesli.
Well, I couldn't eat the muesli, so there you go. He means the bottom of a bird cage, just saying. We're going to have to differ on that one, aren't we?
Yes.
Yes. Well, Thursday we had high hopes because we placed an order on Wednesday. Tesco. Let's just say they didn't cover themselves in glory, sadly. In the Lola department, they let her down with some specially selected sliced meat that she'd ordered. I won't say she was disappointed, but the last time she looked as unimpressed was Halloween 2019, when Mummy decided fancy dress was in order. Mummy hasn't been allowed near her since with it. She just didn't want to, did she?
No.
As you can see from the face, yes. The old white eyes, yes. Mummy's never lived that down, I'm afraid. Which took us to today. Only one thing on the agenda today, wasn't there? 1 o'clock. iPhones. Which ones? Has everybody said in the chat?
No.
Oh, what are you doing? Keeping it all quiet. Anyway, I did my weekly review. I actually got to inbox 0 in that this week, only by cheating, but there you go. And while I was bothering my inbox, I had realised it was Amazon had sent me a thing to tell me that they were 25 years old today. And I recall placing my first order, which obviously was for a book. I don't think they sold anything else at the time, in 1998. I won't say that they didn't have many customers back then, but they sent me a personalised Christmas card and a gift that year. How times have changed, because now I'm lucky if I get what I actually order. Have you noticed that?
This is true.
Yeah. The gift in question was one of these really well-made wooden puzzles that you take to pieces and then put back together again. I actually enjoyed playing with that. They picked the right thing for me, let's say that. Right, okay then. Alex is saying that the firefighter said milk's the worst thing to clear away. Well, it's funny you should say that, because the motorway was shut for hours. I had no idea what it was originally. They just said a tanker, so I assumed fuel or something, but no, it was milk. Oh my word. Right. So, let's head off. Has anybody tried MacWhisper? Does anybody even know what it is? Let me know. Right. Hang on. Pandemonium says, should have been easy with 2 brains and time-bending capacity. You'd think it was actually really complicated. It changes the order that you do things. And for the last 8 episodes, so over 2 months, with the new computer arriving. Scrivener's not worked since. So I can put stuff in it, but I can't compile to how I want to compile. So then I've got to close it down, and then it does an automatic backup, and then I've got to open it up on another machine. And bad words are said, aren't they, Mike?
They are.
Yes, and we're getting nowhere nearer to fixing it yet. Anyway, right, MacWhisper. Okay, this is a completely free app. That's always a good starting point, isn't it? It's a completely free app. Once you see it in action, you'll be surprised that it is completely free. The only reason that I went for the Pro upgrade was, 1, I got a discount on it, and 2, I wanted to batch process. But other than that, everything that I show you, you can do with the free version. So what it is an app that you download and install locally. There is no cloud element to this. All of this happens on your machine. When you see what, you'll realise why that's important. But it allows you to take audio files and video files and create transcripts of them in multiple formats. So obviously for videos that we make, including After Hours, which is quite long, and podcasts that we do, this ability is pretty amazing. Up to now, we've been using Otter.ai. They had last year, though, didn't they? They multiplied their prices. You'll notice I say didn't increase them. No, they multiplied them, but they gave me 12 months on the old price. So I was eager to try this to see if it could replace it, and I predict that it will. So let's go and have a look at it. Okay, so MacWhisper. Oh, good grief. Now there's another version available. Should I or shouldn't I? Do you know what? I'm going to do it. I am. Install and relaunch. There we go. And if you could possibly launch on the right screen, that would be great. Okay, this is what it looks like. So you can see I've got some recent files here, which I will get rid of. I'm going to start. No. I don't want you doing that yet. Go away. Get rid of everything and start from scratch. So that is what we're looking at. So you can see the files that are supported here: MP3, WAVs, M4A, which is audio, MP4, which is video, and MOVs, which is video. And all you literally need to do is drag and drop an existing file on there. Or you could do a new recording. So you have the option to record, and MacWhisper will transcribe as you go. The transcribe podcast option enables you to upload multiple audio files, one for each speaker, and it will then generate a transcription of that. You can also record app audio. So, for instance, if you're listening to something, so maybe this would be a good thing, if you're a journalist. If you were listening to Timmy and the Cast of Thousands on Tuesday, in your browser, you could choose to record that from the browser, and it would generate a transcript as you're going. I'm going to start this the way that I would use it for real, with some files. So I have here, just to show you what I've got, I have got audio files and video files. I'm going to start with some audio files. This one is the shortest episode of MacBites we ever did. It was episode 56, which was when Steve Jobs died. So I think it's about 5 or 6 minutes. You'll notice there's no imagery in it. I don't know why either. I shall ponder that. But that's the file that I'm going to drag and drop. So I will drag and drop it onto the window. And it starts transcribing straight away. Now this is 5 minutes 36, and that's the kind of speed that you can see. You can also see just how accurate it is. It struggles with the word MacBites. It thinks there should be a Y, so I'll sort that out. But it's now finished. So it took 18 seconds to do 5.5 minutes, and that is pretty accurate. Apart from needing to change MacBites, the rest of it looks okay. So what I would do in there, if I needed to do that, is up here we have find text and replace text, and I would be looking to find MacBites, and you can see it highlights it straight away, and put in MacBites with an I. So it's at the beginning here, and all I need to do is hit replace, and it's replaced. Now that's a transcript for a podcast. So I'll get rid of the search and replace. But it is a bit, it definitely needs some paragraphs in it and things like that. But that is one way of looking at it. And you're seeing it says transcript. There is a second way of looking at this, which is segments. So if I switch to segments, it doesn't make sense really for a podcast. But what you can see there is it's segments that are the right length for subtitles. That's why I'm going to demonstrate it with a video shortly. But let's go back to the transcript. Once you've got the transcript, obviously you want to do something with it. Now, one thing you can do with it is press play, and it will start reading it. It will actually play the audio, and it will highlight that as we go through it. So I will do that, but you won't hear it because I've not wired it up so you do, because it all gets upset if we do things like that. We don't want that. So literally, as we go through it, you can see it highlighting it. Right. Now, when you come to export it, so I would probably transcribe this and then put it on the MacBites site. So up here, I'm interested in exporting it. And these are the export options that I've got. So I can export the full transcript. If it were for a video and it was subtitles I wanted, I have SRT and VTT, which are the two subtitle formats. I could send it out as sentences, which I could then glue back together, I'm suspecting, as paragraphs. I could have speaker paragraphs, which that's not bad. That is not bad. I could probably use that on the website. You can also choose comma separated. Now that does add in the timings, so that is more for subtitles. You can also have it as HTML, a PDF, which looks quite pretty. We worked out that a DOTE file was to do with transcription. A docx file, which is Word, or Whisper. Now, why might you want to save it out as a Whisper file? And the benefit of doing that is if I export it as Whisper, so I'm just going to put this in the root in the MacWhisper folder, and I've now got a Whisper file. This is why that one's important. I'll also export the speaker paragraphs. That one wasn't bad, was it? Let's take that out as well in there. Right, that's important because as I go back in here, yes, I can load in my MP3, but what would happen is it would start to retranscribe it. So if I come out of here and get rid of both of those and close the app completely, bring on my Finder and show you that in here, there's my text file. So that's what that looks like. So I can open that in any text editor and start recording, start editing it. But I mean, it's amazing because Windows has got capital W, DOS is correct, the years are correct, the dates are correct. Call me impressed, very impressed. I would actually say Otter's not that accurate, and I'm paying through the nose for that. Right, that's the text file. But this is a file that I can go back into and edit. So if I open up the Whisper file, you can see that allows me to keep an editable version in here with my corrections in it that I can go back to. So if this is a MacBites, and after hours, and it's going to take me 3 hours, then I can come back to it. You'll also note up there that you can translate as well. I'm not sure how many languages it's got. I'm wondering if it's got Dutch. I'm sure Renee will let us know. So that is the basics of one audio file. So let me show you a full podcast. So I lost the history, deliberately deleted that, but what I have got is MacBites 172. I can't remember what the title of that was, but this is a full show. So where is the last one? So this is 36 minutes, just over 36 minutes. Oh yes, this was Timmy coaxing, cajoling and captivating us. You can see it's still spelling MacBites, bizarrely. We've got Matt space bites and we've got MacBites with a Y. But the rest of it is fairly decent, including the URL. So the reason that I'm doing this is how long would it take for a full podcast transcription? So you can see it is just text. It's not splitting it in any way at this stage. But you can also see it's motoring. We're a third of the way through there. So that's 12 minutes done already. It is incredibly fast and incredibly accurate. Now, in terms of its accuracy, I am not using the best option, even in the free version. I have opted for middling to see how it went. And you know, middling is accurate enough. And it's a trade-off between accuracy and speed. But I think you can see by looking at that, even WordPad, it's spelt correctly with a capital P in the middle. Notepad, it's done the same. So literally the only words that are confusing it in any kind of way are ours where we've made them up, haven't we? MacBites wasn't a word and now it is. So as I go through here, it's even spelled Elon correctly. Must be my pronunciation. But it does a pretty decent job. Blue shirted, you'll see, has got a hyphen in it. AirPods were okay. Trafford Centre Apple Store, it's capitalised the whole thing. I was surprised. I was very impressed with it. Right. Patience is saying, just had a thought. If you're sharing media and need a transcript for someone who's deaf or hard of hearing, it would be perfect. Oh, it's not. It's no good if it's not in Dutch. We'll see, Renee. We'll see. That's exactly the point with this. You could put this as a transcript straight on the website, as I've said. So that took, how long did that take? Did it tell us? I don't know whether it did or not. If it did, let me know. But it's completely done. So if we go down here, we've even got the Siri sketch at the end. So that's us saying goodbye. There we go. Well, we survived it. So that is the Siri sketch at the end. It's even managed that. It's got MacBites with an eye as well at some point. Okay, so it did that. You can then do exactly the same as you did with the other one. So you can see it in segments, if that makes any sense. But for an audio podcast, it doesn't. But you've got the ability to export it. And what you can do in here, if you want to take the time, you can actually, before you export it, go into the segments and bring up this option with the managed speakers. And obviously you can see in here, I've got me, Mike, Siri and Lady Siri. And I can allocate the speaker based on this. So I think most of these were me. So what I would do is I would grab, let's say, from there upwards, and I can allocate to that. So I've got them selected with the Shift key. All I then need to do is allocate a speaker. And what that does is push it in and puts me at the side. So if we go down to the very end, we can do that with the end. So I'm not going to segment it in terms of Siri and Lady Siri, but if I just grab the sketch, which is there, and say that that was Siri, you can see it pushes it in, colour codes it. The reason that Siri is pink, poor Siri, is it's pink when I write it in Scrivener. And Lady Siri is green. And Mike is blue. So if there was a part in here where Mike was blue, let me just grab some lines, doesn't matter which. Let's say Mike did that. Then I would right click on there, hang on, not like that. Right click there, say Mike, and there would be a blue line and Mike would be in it. Once I've done that, then of course I can go to the exports. And when I go to the exports and choose something with some formatting in it, you can see it's got my name at the beginning of the lines. And if we go right down to the end, you can see it's got Siri at the beginning of the lines. So if you're being serious about doing this, you could go through and mark every line or every paragraph with who had actually said it, and then your export would be much improved. Okay, I won't bother exporting that one. What I will do is show you the other way that we use it, which is video. So in here I've been through this obviously in rehearsals, but I'm doing it completely from scratch. So it's this video, and I do believe that video was 12 minutes odd. I'm lying, it was 16 and a half. So it's 16 and a half minutes of high definition video, 4K video. So what I'm going to do with it is I'm going to go back to the interface on here. I will discard that, not bothered, and drag my video on. So there is me dragging the video on. You don't get to see the video, but it does start transcribing it. Now, because I've got that on segments, you can see that it's loading it in and it's got timings underneath as well. And as I keep going, even though that is 4K video, 16 and a half minutes of it, it's incredibly fast. So I'm going to let this strut its stuff. Then I'm going to show you what that video looks like. I'm going to have to be careful with that because it's on YouTube and I don't want to strike against myself for copyright, even though it's on my channel. But I will show you that there is no subtitles in it at the moment. And then we will add some subtitles. So it's finishing off. I wonder how long 16 and a half minutes will take. Probably less than 2 minutes, definitely. Definitely. There is a couple of differences with the Pro version. One is there is a better model, an even more accurate model. But the reason that I upgraded was batch processing. I wanted to be able to drag and drop multiple things on it and have it do its thing. Right, so it's done that. That is completely finished. So what I'm going to do over here is I'm going to open a folder with the video in it. There's the video. and just show you. So I'm going to open it with Inner, and it's going to put it on a different screen just because it can. And I will show you there is no subtitles on there. And it is not displaying any subtitles. But here is how we fix that. So that is in Inner and it is open. I might need to refresh it. But what we'll do is, from in here, we now have subtitles. You have a transcript as well, if that's what you want, but you also have the segments, which is what the subtitles will look like. The timings underneath are how and when they will appear on the screen. So I will need to export these in some kind of format. Now, Inner, which is a free video player, can read SRTs or VTTs. It doesn't matter. Normally, if you download a video, it will download as SRT. But there are some video players online, including the ones we use on the website, aren't they? And the subtitles need to be VTT. So the good news is you don't have to reprocess it or anything. You just choose what you want and export it. So I will put that in the video untitled folder. So this is in here with the video and it's an SRT. So we'll save that. Now notice that these files have exactly the same name. That's important. So I don't know if I press that, if it will actually load them in without me. It doesn't look like it. I think I need to refresh that. So what I'll do is I'll open it again from there. And straight away, you can see at the bottom of it, the subtitles. And they are being read in at the same time as you're playing them from this file. If that file did not have the same name, it would not load them in automatically. You are not limited to Inner. You can use any application that has the ability to load in subtitles. Inner loads them automatically, as you can see. If I whip along in there, you can see it moves the subtitles along as well. Now, inside Inner, you can bring up video, audio, or subtitles. If you bring the subtitles up, it tells you. So if you did have a third and fourth version of these in Dutch for Renee, then you could switch between them. If you want to turn them off, you just choose none. You want to turn them back on, you choose the subtitles that you want to use. So you could have French, German and Dutch, obviously, as well as English if you wanted to. And obviously with the option in here to translate, or you could have the AI translate them or whatever, it would be much easier to do that than it ever has been before. Can you see why Otter's going bye-bye? When this year's out, I'm done.
That's what Alex has said.
Absolutely, it's gone. It's definitely gone. This is more accurate. It's faster for me to... The time I spend correcting Otter isn't worth it, as far as I'm concerned. So we've done 2 audio files and we've done a video file. Now, the other thing with the video file is, so we've seen the subtitles from the video file, but what I will do with the video file, let's get that out of the way and to bring that back over here. When I come to export in there, I think the PDF one's quite nice. It does give you timings and stuff, but if you want it to be editable, then I think the speaker paragraphs is quite nice. When I look at these, they more often than not need to be glued back together rather than re-separated. And to be honest, that one's not bad at all. I could actually compare that with the script that I worked from. Now, I don't stick to a script, obviously, me and a script, but it follows along. Let's say that, it follows along. So that one's not bad at all. So again, I would export that and save it wherever. And of course, make sure that if you do want to go back, or potentially you want to go back. So let's say you've done your exports like I have, but I haven't exported all of these. Good practice to make sure that you've got a Whisper copy, and that way you don't have to reprocess it. So I would save a Whisper copy and then I can reopen that and come in here later and think, yes, I need a different export. This one's going on the web, on my website, and I need a VTT for it. And it's as simple as just exporting what you need. Now, in terms of options, if you bring up the options, you get to choose whether the display mode is transcript or segments by default. Obviously, it's really simple to switch between them. You've seen me do that with these 2 buttons at the top. You can then choose a large font if you want. You can choose to show the timestamps, which is quite handy if you're working with video. And you can choose to play when you've finished or not. So I didn't bother with that. I thought I'll have a look at it first, but that's what you can do. So I'm not quite sure how large the large font is. Shall we have a look? Is that a large font or not? Do I have to... that is a large font in there, isn't it? So that might be useful. Now, then you've got your find and replace. So I've added MacBites and replace it with MacBites. Then I've got the speakers. Now, if you have the standard version, so you've not paid for Pro, you are able to use 2 speakers. So I added Elaine and Mike, and then when I upgraded, I added Siri and Lady Siri. But that is how you add the speakers and set the colours. If you go into there, you can set the colours. There is a range of colours to choose from. Then you've got the translations. Now, for that, you need an API key for DeepL, which is a processor. I'm not sure if that's... It says free, doesn't it? So you could potentially do that for free. I haven't gone into that yet. I've been far too busy with the rest of it. Then you've got your about, and then you've got whether it's Pro or not. So yes, I purchased Pro. But it's all to do with the quality of it in terms of the language models it uses. So some of them, I'll say discard that. So down here, you've got auto detect the language, but you can choose a language if you need to, and Dutch is in there. So if we had some audio of you, Renee, then you've got the transcription quality. So this is the language model. And in here, you've got English only. So I've set it to small from multiple languages. So if there is any foreign languages in there, it should be able to pick them up. And the models that you've got available to you will depend on if it's Pro or not. So you can see in here which ones are Pro and which ones aren't, I think. Is it in here? I think now I've gone Pro, it doesn't show you which is Pro. But I stuck to small. So tiny, base and small are available to you. Then you've got base in English and small in English, but with good accuracy. So you see it's saying normal speed with good accuracy. That's just for English, whereas this one is multiple languages. And then as you go down here, you've got medium, but it's saying it's slow, but great accuracy. But to be honest, I can't imagine how much more accurate it could be, which is why I left it alone. I thought, given how accurate it is, the words it's not getting correct, I wouldn't expect it to. I don't think improving the language model is going to make it understand MacBites. I might as well keep the speed. These I haven't downloaded, but that's what the downloads are for. So if you've got the Pro one, you have all of those language models available to you. But the one I'm using is available in the free version. So it's not smoke and mirrors here. The one I used is the one that you can use totally for free. So where is my link? Where did that go? I will get it up here somewhere. Right, I will show you what you get. So, MacWhisper, did have the link somewhere, but never mind. There we go. Let's bring that on. So, this is it. It's available on Gumroad from, what was his name? Geordie, that's right. Good Snooze. I love the title. So, what you do with this is you can see it says €0. You go to Gumroad. It's probably better if you have an account, just purely for the fact you'll be able to recover your purchase information if you have an account. But what you're looking at here is you have this one, which is totally free, and that's the one I started with. So all you need to do is click that and then say, I want this, and that is totally free. I then went back and got this one, which is the €25 one. However, I didn't do it straight away because I had a question. And that was, if I needed one license per computer, then I may have well have gone for the 5 licenses one. So I got in touch with Geordie, the developer, and I asked, is this personal license per computer or per user? And it is per user. He requests you do not share keys, obviously, but you can put it on more than one computer as long as you own the computer. So I actually only needed this €25 one. By which time, because I'd waited 2 days, I got a voucher for 25% off as well. So I went for the €25 one, but having waited a couple of days after taking the free one, I did get this voucher and get some money off. The rest of that is just literally telling you how it works and the fact that it is a one-time payment. It is not subscription. It's all current features and future features, and it's unlimited transcriptions as well. So the way Otter works, you get a certain number of minutes per month, and when the minutes have run out, you have to wait until the next month. You can also say, as you look through this, that things like ums and ahs it will take out, and other filler words, which makes your job easier if you're trying to create a transcript, that you don't have to go through manually and do all of that. So this is the extras that you get if you're going with the Pro one. So you get everything that's in the standard one, but you get Batch Transcribe. Now, the reason that I was interested in Batch Transcribe wasn't for sort of episodes of MacBites, because each one would need to be looked at individually anyway. But I did have multiple courses that I'd created. And for each one of those, you're probably looking at between 15 to 30 videos. And rather than do them one by one, this was much faster. Now, how I used to do them, I cheated. I uploaded them to YouTube as private videos, waited for them to process, and then downloaded the automatically generated subtitles from YouTube, which were in no way as accurate as this is. So I was able, with a course that had 14 videos, to drag and drop the 14 videos and get 14 transcripts, 14 sets of subtitles, and I don't think they needed even one word, because I wasn't saying words like MacBites, it was standard words. So I did the whole lot together. Now, you can manually add speakers with that one, and you can record and transcribe system audio. So that's where you're doing live meetings, which I mentioned earlier. It shows you what it supports in the way of language models. And then you've got this ability to transcribe if you want into other languages. You do get higher priority support, but to be honest, I haven't needed any support at all. It does say pay once and use forever, so I don't know whether that's up to, like a lifetime license for 1.999, or whether it's a lifetime license moving forward. But when I think of what you would be saving by not using a paid for service per minute, just take my money. Take my money. You do get a license key for the free one, and you get a different license key for the Pro one if you go Pro. But there's no nagging and piddling about, not like ForkLift last week. Oh, the nag fest that was. I didn't even see one message about upgrading. I did just get this mail about 2 days later that offered me a discount. So do we have any questions on that?
We have a few. Yeah, first of all, Patricia says that it only works on Ventura.
Let me have a
But
look.
it also says support for Monterey up to version 2.2. But can you download version 2.2?
I don't know. I must admit, I don't know. It does say it works on Intel Macs.
Yeah.
I don't know, because I have actually got Ventura. I guess we could try it on yours, couldn't we? Hang on, what are you on?
Ventura.
Oh yes, we updated, didn't we? I remember. Yeah. That was a nagging fest as well, wasn't it? I've not tried it.
If you scroll down.
I can see it there.
Oh, you can see it.
I can see it there. It says up to 2.2.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what it means by 2.2. Does it mean 2.2 at Monterey?
I'm guessing it means MacWhisper 2.2.
Okay, then in that case, we'd need to see
but can you get
what it's reporting as. Let's have a look. 4.6. I would get in touch with the developer. He got back to me within 10 minutes. So I don't know where he is in the world, and you know me, it was late, but he's very responsive in coming back. So I would get in touch with the developer and ask the question.
The difference between Pro and Free, you answered, didn't you?
Yep.
Carol says, I use Wistia for Zoom videos for work. They do a transcription, but it's not so good and slow. If this would work with Wistia, it would save me a lot of time.
Well, how it works is the two formats that you need to generate will be SRT and VTT. I don't know what Wistia wants uploaded, but the odds are it will be one of those two. So if you were doing this on YouTube, you would upload your video to YouTube, and then it prompts you to upload some subtitles. If you don't, it automatically generates them. And they're not bad. They're not perfect, but they're not bad. But with this one, you would be able to generate them, make sure they're absolutely perfect, and then just in the field where it says upload the subtitles, you just point it to the VTT and it goes away and uploads it. I'm sure Wistia would be similar. So let's have a look. Wistia video.
Kim does say it looks like you can download 2.2 if you have Monterey.
Right, here we go. Transcripts and captions, blah, blah, blah. Tell us what you need. There you go. You can upload a custom SRT file. So that's all you need. You just need to generate the SRT and upload it. You can see here as well it supports VTT by the look of it. So they are very similar in formatting, and you can obviously, you've seen me just switch between them. So you just need to choose which one you feel is best for the circumstance and then just upload that. Right.
Another question.
Right, where you go.
Patricia says, I wonder if this might work for my poetry readings. Artsy words of the poetry over reading. I'm working on putting artsy words of the poetry over a video reading, and I'm looking for a more automated workflow.
Yes, it would. They would have to make sure, you'd have to make sure that the subtitles were turned on to see them. But yes, it would work. I think it's just good practice to include it. I mean, I get so many emails from people saying, thank you for putting subtitles on it. English isn't my first language. So they're watching it with the subtitles on. Now, the only subtitles I think I've got on there are automatically generated English. But clearly they are reading it. So they're using two senses. They're hearing it as a foreign language and reading it as a foreign language at the same time. And I'm assuming because they can see it, it is easier to comprehend. So I've been thinking for a while that I'd rather not rely on the automatically generated YouTube ones. I would rather have some way of doing it locally. There are many apps that you can write your own subtitles, but obviously that takes an absolute age. So for this one, I think it would literally take a couple of minutes, and then you just need to go through it and correct anything that's glaringly wrong. The time saving, the biggest time saving is that you're not having to type in all those numbers to tell it when to display the subtitles. That it's picking up automatically, which is just genius. And that actually doesn't have anything to do with generating you a simple transcription. The simple transcription is just a wall of text that you make into paragraphs. But we're talking here, it has the ability to create the subtitles with the timings, and it's the timings that will save you a ton of time creating them. So yes, it works with Wistia. Have we got anything else?
Yeah, Patricia says, do you have a video on the benefits and drawbacks of upgrading to Ventura?
I don't have a video, no. The only reason that I ended up upgrading to Ventura is the usual sad story tale. When you go in to check your updates, it will tell you that, so I'm at this stage, I'm on Monterey, and it will say, you know, that there's an upgrade. You can put Ventura on. And I will be thinking, no, not a chance. And underneath that, there'll be a point update to Monterey. And at some point, and it's done this to me 3 or 4 times now, I'm holding off the next version, and I'm trying to update the last version, or to the latest version of the last version of OS, and it won't do it. It just won't do it. Once it updated itself, and I just left it to it, I had the same trouble with Big Sur. I had the same trouble with the last 4. So what happened was it got to a point and I said to Mike, I'm doing the Ventura thing because I can't update to anything else. And for security purposes, I didn't want to say where I was either. So I just updated it. The machine that we're looking at now shipped with Ventura. So I didn't have to upgrade to Ventura. But in terms of would I do it or not, the only reason I hold off, I was the one, do you remember Lion?
Lion.
Leopard. The first update we did. Oh, we were that keen to do it. We dashed out, got the CD, came back, did it on the same night. And if you think that was fast, the one after that, which was Snow Leopard, we went down to the Liverpool One store to buy it because in those days it was on a disc. And we were front of the queue. It absolutely hammered it down with rain, and the Apple Store employees took pity on us and let us in half an hour earlier. We already looked like drowned rats. We got in there and it was like, give, and they gave us the CD and I installed it there. Those days are long gone. We're lucky if it's in the same year now. But the reason that I hold off is that the stuff that I need to use, so particularly all the broadcast stuff, capturing the audio, virtual audio piping, screen recording, none of that will work on day one with a new OS. None of it. So now I don't bother. I probably hold out longer than I need to, but I hold out until I'm absolutely certain that all of the software's working. And no matter what, something will fall off the end. So for me with this machine, if it didn't install without Rosetta, it didn't get installed. And there were a couple of apps that went that way. There was another app that I found that had been taken out of the App Store. So there's always little things, but I don't think there's any reason not to upgrade to Ventura now. Because when's the other one out? 26th. Sonoma's out on the 26th. So if you're going to do the Ventura thing, now would be a really good time. And that way you can hold off Sonoma for a little bit of time. Otherwise, you have to go via the back door to try and download Ventura. So you might as well at least download Ventura right now. I've not had any problems with it. Touch wood. But that I did wait a long time. 10 months. At least 10 months I waited. Right, did somebody ask for Inner? You put the link in for that, did you?
And Carol's purchased Pro.
Oh, wow, that was fast. Excellent. You won't regret it. It is a very good app. It really is a good app.
Didn't Carol purchase something last week?
Yes, that was ForkLift.
That was ForkLift,
yes.
yeah.
I'm going to get a reputation here for
you're
mugging
costing
Carol.
a lot of money, yeah.
Yes, but don't think of it like that, Mike. Think of how many things she can do now she couldn't do before.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's how we look at it. Right, so have we got any other questions on that before we move on?
No.
Is that it? Right, that one is one I am happy to recommend. I think if you've got requirements like me where you're trying to do an entire course, the batch processing is fantastic. But beyond that, you would get away with free, I think. But you'll probably get a discount anyway. So there you go. Right, let's close that down and get off into here where... Why aren't you moving? There we go. We're forklifting. So last week we had a look at it. So it was released on the 5th of September. If you remember, I was deep in an edit and grumpy because I wanted to play with it straight away. We did last week go over the basics of it, of how long it's been around, so it's got a decent pedigree. It has been quite a while since an update, 7 years, quite a while. No, 6 years, the last one, 7 years before that. And I did briefly mention that this release brought with it new pricing model. Yes, subscription. Now, I did briefly talk about that in terms of that you did now get an upgrade discount, etc., etc. But if you want to know everything there is to know about ForkLift and its licensing, we did cover all of that, didn't we, Mike, at great length in the last MacBites. So take a listen to the last MacBites, which was 173, and that's got about 10 minutes explaining it all. And then I go on to the features, etc. But what I'm going to do today is look at some more advanced features and answer some questions that we had as well. So let's head off and ForkLift. Right, so I've got this at the moment set to a single window. I had that set to a single window before I closed it down, and obviously it retains that. And it's pointing to my downloads folders, which is neat and tidy for once. Right, so first thing is, last week we talked about whether the now I've got this set to date modified for this particular folder, but we talked about things like, should the folders be at the top? Renee was a yes, the folder should always be at the top. Let me know, are you an at the top or in the sort order? Let me know. But when we went into the preferences, if you're used to the preferences in Finder and Pathfinder, having everything in them, you're going to be disappointed in here because half the stuff is not in here. But this is where you will find things like the starting directory and whether you want the tabs restored on startup and stuff like that. This is also where you can change all of the shortcut keys, and everything has a shortcut key, or at least if we look at the stuff like show title bar that doesn't, you can set one if you want. Then you've got the transfers, what your policy is on that. You've got tools and editing and themes. But the one thing that's glaringly missing from in there, I think this is where you would go if you wanted to try and do it, was the look and feel of the folders. So I said I had changed this and I had alternating row colours for a start. And that was one of the questions I got. Where's the alternating row colours? So if you go into view, you have a whole range of options in here. You've got the options to view as icons, lists and columns, which you have available on the toolbar over here. You also have the ability to switch between a single pane and a dual pane view. You can choose to hide the sidebar, not quite sure why you would. You can hide the title bar and then show the tab bar, hide the tab bar, all of the rest of the stuff looking through here. All of that. Right, but you also have in here view options, which is Command and J. Now it's Command and J on Finder as well. So if you've never seen that, here's Finder, and if you Command and J, you will get this up over here. And what you can do in here is say whether you always want it opened in icon view. You can group by certain things, you can change the icon size. That is the standard Finder, and what they've done in ForkLift is leave the shortcut key the same. So if you bring up Command and J, that is where you will find it. It's not a separate window like the other one, the little palette down at the bottom. It hangs off up here. There's a little pointer on there. Now, important stuff with this is, initially this is set, it says here, to this folder. I think I changed it. So I'm going to go back to all folders, and you can see this has changed the actual order of it. So the default for all folders was not the same as the default for this folder. So first of all, we're going to look at all folders. And what I did in here is this option at the bottom, use alternating background. So that is what it looked like out of the box. And it's all right, but Finder, if I use it in a list, has alternating rows, and so does Pathfinder for me. So one of the things I wanted, first of all, was to make sure that I was using the alternating background. That is where you will find it. Now you then have an option to always resize the name column. So initially they were quite narrow. And I thought, well, if the files have longer names, it would be a good idea to automatically resize them. You can then choose, another one is calculate all sizes. So when I'm working with video, I do want to see the size of the files. This is where you see folders on the top or not. So if you look at mine, they are alphabetical at the moment. It does say show folders on top, but looking at those, some of that is alphabetical as well, and I've got video at the bottom. If I do that, that doesn't move. Let's try that. Not making a difference at the moment, but that's where you would do it. Packages and the ability to treat packages as folders is where you would want to see inside a package. Now that, depending on how you use packages, you may want to turn that on. I don't want to turn that on because I want to know if something is a package. The reason that that is important is things like Scrivener. When Scrivener saves a file, it's actually a package, and I don't want to be confused and think that that's not a package and start moving things around in it, because it's not going to be happy. Right, you can also choose from in here to show hidden files, and then you've got the columns that you want to see as well. So I've got size and date modified at the moment. You could open other ones like tags. So in there, if I put a tag on there like that, you can see it would be displayed as text. It would show you that. So again, Command and J is your friend to customize this. So let's take that back to the default. Now what I've done in here, all the changes I've made in here, I have made to all folders, because the very first line at the top was set to all folders. Now, this is my downloads folder. It makes most sense to me if it's sorted differently. So in here, if I choose this folder and I choose sort by, but I choose sort by when it was created, which should be when it was downloaded, with a bit of luck. Is that the right one? Modified, or is it modified? Modified, there we go, I think. We'll soon find out when I put some files in it, all right? I want this particular folder to display differently than other folders. Now, I could take that even further. I could say with that I wanted it in a different view, or, oh, maybe it was date added, not modified. I'm not sure. I have no idea which one, but one of those date ones was what I did. Right, so what I've done with that, it's only this folder. So technically speaking, that one has got the newest stuff first, or it should do, ish. But if I were to go to Dropbox, it would be alphabetical. So what I've done is I've created a unique view for this folder. So each folder could have a unique view if you wanted. So particularly that would be relevant if you had photos and you decided that in here you would like it to have that view as well. You could do that. And then this would have a particular view, but the other ones wouldn't. As I switch back from them, they've got totally different views. So that's just something to be aware of. in there. Just something to be aware of, that you can be as granular as you like with individual folders. So the thing I like about ForkLift is just how customizable it is. Now, not satisfied with that. You've also got the ability. So what I'm going to do now is I'll go to the MacBites workspace, and it's doing all kinds of things in here. So let me switch this. It normally wouldn't work like this. What have we got in here? That'll do. Right. I've got lots of tabs open for a start. The ones on the left are generally things where I'm editing. So my Hindi files are in here when I'm editing. I also put certain files on the desktop. It's a long story. It involves a script. Don't argue with the script. Just put it on the desktop, where there's nothing on the desktop usually. And then I've got my publishing suite folder. The ones on the right are where things end up. So in my newsletter assets, I would put the show art. In here, I've got the actual show, so I would publish to it. Now, in addition to having a workspace, which we looked at last week, which is what this is, so it is in the sidebar, but it's not just a folder, it's a workspace. In addition to that, inside these folders, if you are inside these folders, and you know that you are always going to want that as a starting point, what you can do, just like you can in a browser, if you hover over the X, it will close it if you click it. But if this folder, you don't ever want to close this folder when you're doing MacBite stuff, you can right click on it and pin it. And the close button changes to a push pin, and now you can't close that folder. And even better than that, if you were to open that up, it would open it in another tab and leave this tab focused on areas MacBites. So that is pinning tabs. Now, shall we start again at this point and get a new window? I'll do my single pane, that's what I'll do. Right, what I'm going to do is go into this one, and here's ForkLift. So, why have I got those in there? I think I've put those in the wrong place, but never mind. Right, I've got two things to show you about batch renaming. So this is something that it can do. So I've got one of these, which is, these are at the end of every show. Obviously, you've sat through presentation. We use the presentation to guide the show. I do not have a running order on my desk or anywhere else either. It's in PowerPoint. And I bring it to the front, we look through some slides, and then I get rid of PowerPoint. At the end of the show, I export all of those as images, and they get put in Notion. So this was last week's. That's what they look like. Now, I could leave them named like that, but in my file system, if I do, I don't have any indication on a per file basis what show that was from. I can see normally that it was from, if we look at number 1, we'll find out. It was from last week. But I've got no indication in the actual file name, nor in this example, if we look across the top here, all of that there, I've got no indication which show it was either, because this is for a demonstration. So I could do with renaming these files, is the long and short of it. So Command and A to select the lot, right click and rename. And that brings up this window. The left hand side here, the central panel, so that bit there is the current name. This bit is the name it's going to be when you rename it. And this over here is how you're going to rename them. So there's 3 steps to it. So that's the first thing. So how I actually rename them, I have a format that I use. I've used this format for forever. So I want to add some text to this, because at least these are in the right order, but they're just numbered. So I want to add some text, and I want to add it to the name rather than the extension or the extension with a dot or anything else. I just want to add it to the name. This is the text that I want added. Now you'll see, obviously it's got XXX in it, and then YY, etc. I need to specify that at the point of renaming. And it's got a dot at the end, and then following that dot, I want a number. So actually, that looks pretty good at the moment. This position option says whether you want it at the beginning, the end, or a specific index. And what a specific index means is it will put it at the position you specify via a number. So what I need to do in here is change these to last week, which was the 8th, and the XXX is the show, and that was 0207. And you can see these are the names at the moment, but over on the right hand side, these are going to be the new names. Now, because of the name that the file already had, I can do this by just putting that in and specifying it. It's as simple as that. So if I rename, they will all be renamed. And those are the files that I would then upload to Notion, and then I can view them in Notion. I think we've done that, haven't we? Have we seen that or not? Let me show you. I haven't got last week's show. Just a second. So open. No, not open. That's not what I'm trying to do. That's what I'm trying to do. 0207 into last week's. And this is what it looks like. Down the bottom here, there it is. So that's what we did. And there are the slides. And that means I can see them all with just an eyeball, and so can Mike, because Mike does not have the slides or even access to the slides. So they are all added in there like that. And I think there were 7 more. I think we had 100 and something last week. There you go, 107. If you look at the names underneath them, they match what we've just done. So not lying to you, that is genuinely what I actually do. So let's take that over there, and that is what I would do with these. Now, let's go back to the batch renaming and have another look at it. This time, let's say they were exported with the word slide in front of them. What could we do with that? Now, I have a way of doing that with a Better Finder rename. But if you've got ForkLift, it could actually be just as fast. So, Command and A to select them all. Right click, rename. Where did you disappear to? There we go, rename. Now, what I've already got in here, it remembers the last thing you did. And that's not bad. But if we look over on the right hand side, you can see that you've got the word slide all the way through it. And there's no way to get rid of it. So I can rename them like that, but that isn't actually solving the problem because I don't want the word slide in the middle. But there is a plus at the top of here. This is not dumb. Trust me, this is not dumb. You can add multiple steps. You can then either take that step away or add a third step and a fourth step and so forth. So this time I want to replace some text in the name, and I want all occurrences of it. I want you to replace the word slide and the space after it with nothing. So you don't have to specify a replacement. You can just say with nothing. And that has the impact of removing a word from that. If I wanted to add another one and I wanted to replace the word hours, you can see it will take that out as well. But I don't want that, so I'm going to remove that step, leave it like that. And this time I've got the 2 steps that it will run against it. So let's rename it, and it's done. But it gets even better than that. So I'm going to Command and A again, and I'm going to go into here and rename. I'm going to find that next. There we go. Right. You can do one more thing with this, which is amazing. You can add it to your favourites. Now remember where your favourites are. Your favourites are not only favourites, but MacBites is a collection of favourites and After Hours is a collection of favourites. So you could add this to your favourites and then not have to re-specify it next time. But next time, the odds are it's going to be a different show. So before I do, I can go into there and put my 4 X's. And in there, it was year, month, day. Now, obviously at the moment, that is exactly what it would rename those to, but I don't need to run it at the moment. What I'm doing with this is making this generic. Then I'm going to add it to my favourites. It would be for MacBites or even After Hours. So we'll put it in After Hours and we would call it Rename Slides. and add it. And there it is at the bottom. Now, you can either click it and it will bring it up. It will bring it up in terms of, at the moment, I think it's got it selected, hasn't it? It's got all of those files selected. What it will let you do before you run it is you can go into there and you can edit that, and you can see what's happening over on the right hand side while it's doing it. So that one was 223.09.08, right? And it would rename them correctly. The other thing that you can do is you can go into this by right clicking it and say edit, and you could edit it in there and then just save it. But the point being, what I do with this app that costs something like £50, right? You can see in here, I've got exactly the same thing. Rename my files, produce a sequence list. That's what I want as the prefix. I want padding of 3, start with 1 and go through to the end. And that is what I do in there. But I don't even need to open that anymore because I can do all of that in here. I may need 2 passes. That's just an example though. Actually for me, I don't, because the slides come out as a number. But if you did need to take something away or add something else, you can add multiple steps in there. So it is actually quite advanced when it comes to renaming things. And the fact that you don't have to hunt around, it doesn't matter whether it's a workspace, a folder, a remote connection, or a way to rename, everything is in the sidebar on ForkLift, which is pretty amazing. We got any questions on that before I head into the last bit?
We've got 2 questions.
Mm-hmm.
One, I think, is on this from Patricia, who says, did you already talk about how to make a workspace?
I did. I talked about that last week.
And the second one was going back to Inner. If I download Inner, does it replace VLC actions? Do I need both?
What are you doing with VLC actions? It would depend what you're doing with VLC, but both can live quite happily on the same machine. And all you need to do, if you want Inner to open automatically, is when you've got a file, so let's look at a file here. If you want that, if you bring up your info, you can choose what opens that particular file. So I've got this set to Inner at the moment. I think the only other option I've got on here is QuickTime. If I do that, it will open it in QuickTime. It will change that file all the time. It will open in QuickTime. But if you want it to open, if you want all your videos to open in QuickTime, you just choose that on one file and say change all. And it will come up and say, are you sure you want all these files to open with QuickTime? You say continue, that's it. That becomes the default. If you then think that was a big mistake, I want to play it in Inner, you go and choose Inner again and you hit change all. It says now, are you sure you want them to open in Inner? Yes, I do. So in your case, you could be changing it between Inner and VLC, but they can both quite happily. I mean, I think I've had about 8 or 9 video players. I was looking for one that had like the most minimal interface. But to be honest, the one that works best for me is Inner. The shortcut keys are logical. It's fast as anything. It can pick up where it left off and it can automatically read the subtitles in. So I have no need for anything else and haven't even installed it. But you should be fine with that. Right, do we have anything else?
No.
Right, well, the workspaces were, you set the thing up as you want it. So at the moment, we've got a single pane and we're looking at that folder, which is the 2-step rename. Right, what I can do is open up 2 panels. That's my download. You'll notice it's remembered its view. If I want that, and I want a couple of other tabs as well, maybe I want a couple of extra tabs open. So in my downloads, I'll go for, where are we? I will go for a MacBites thing over here, MacBite shows. So I've got 2 tabs open on the right, I've got 1 open on the left, and they're pointing to specific places. At that point, all I need to do is go to, I thought it was view, where's, oh no, it's not, it's favourites, I'm lying to myself. Right, what I do in there is save the workspace, which creates a completely new workspace, and you get to choose which group it's in. So it defaults to favourites, which is the default one there. I created groups, a new group of favourites basically, as MacBites and After Hours. But what I'll do with this one is Elaine's setup. So I'm making a workspace, and I'm going to put it in favorites and just hit add. And it has this icon, so you can see this single pane view is a workspace. This is a workspace. The MacBites workspace is a workspace. And then all you need to do is switch between them. So if you go to the single pane, it defaults to the downloads folder because that's my default. But if you go back to Elaine's setup, it loads in all of the tabs that were open and however many panes you had open, and that is your workspace. If when you're working with your workspace, you realise that you really could do with a third tab, and let's say that one's pointing at the root of my S3 folder, and over here I want that pointing to my newsletter assets. So in essence, when I created the workspace, I didn't have all the tabs open that I needed. Instead of making a new workspace and manually juggling them, remember that when this workspace was opened, it was Elaine's setup. If you go to favourites, you could save the workspace, but you could also update Elaine's setup. So if I choose to update it, and then I go back to the single pane and back to Elaine's setup, now I have all 5 tabs open and a dual view. So you can update a view. If you have that view applied and then you want to update the single pane, you'll notice that in here you can only update the workspace that was the active workspace, the last one that you applied. In those circumstances, you would save the workspace, rename it and delete the other one. But that is how you work with workspaces. So we got anything on that?
No.
Okay. Right. Let's head off in there. Oh, Jammy's in the house. Good grief. Did they let you out the gym, did they?
He's on the phone, so half paying attention until he can get rid.
Get rid of what?
The person he's on the phone to, I presume.
Oh, right, on the phone. I thought you meant he was watching on the phone. Do people not realise that you can't ring Jammy on a Friday? Oh, we're going to have to deal with this. Well, let's give him long enough to look at the title on here, and then he'll be off that phone that fast, because this was his question. Right, okay. So we are now looking at this one. There they are. I've got this in the wrong order. Right, what we're talking about here is who has more than 10 browser tabs open most of the time? Mike never does, he's a little saint, but working with him's a nightmare because he then has to load in each thing one at a time, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, then I get grumpy. A lot of people have a lot of tabs open, and once you go beyond critical mass, it's tricky. So Jammy's question was, how can I utilise which is an app I'll talk about, to search my browser tabs? Now, searching is one thing. Finding is another. So I thought we'd have a look at a few ideas. Kim says she always does. You're going to love this then. Right. Jammy's idea was an app called Which. Now, Which I do have installed. I've had it installed since the first couple of weeks I got a Mac, because it provides me with functionality that was available in Windows that is not available in the Mac. Now, when I say is not available, it wasn't available back then. I believe it may be there now, but I have used Which that long, I need Which. There are other ways that we will look at this, so I'm looking at it from about 10 different angles. But Which is one of the things I will look at. Raycast is another way to do it. Personally speaking, I think Raycast is the best. There are also options for Alfred, not quite as easy as Raycast. The browser I'll be using as an example is Vivaldi, of course, but the Raycast method, the Which method, works in any browser. So it doesn't really matter what browser you're using. So let's go and have a look at that. So first things first, let's go get a browser. So the first thing to think about is Jammy tried doing this, which brought that up. So that little thing that you see in the middle of the screen where it says MacWhisper Vivaldi, that is Which. Now what Jammy was expecting to be seeing, oh, Debbie has always over 20 tabs as well. I'm the same. Mine are just a little bit more organised. I used to have them all in one workspace. Workspaces are your friend. But what Jammy expected to see was a list of open tabs. Now, no matter what I try and do with Which, it's not having it. it doesn't do it. So that's the first issue. But is it still worth having which installed? Well, actually it is, because this is why. If we go into something like Pages, don't open on the wrong screen. Right, I've got a couple of files here that are just very basic Pages files like this. Right, obviously this is an Apple app, so it works. So if I minimize this, and I'm working on this one, and I minimize that one, and then I click away. So at the moment it says Pages, but if I click away, if I now bring back Pages, so I activate Pages. Oh, actually, it's not doing it. It was doing it before. It's not doing it now. Pages is now active. That's great. Where's my window? Because until a certain operating system, and I can't remember which one, it would bring back at this stage the last file you had open. Now it doesn't. Now, you can go to Window and you can see these two files are open. Who wants to use the mouse for that? What I want to see is a list of the open files. Like that. And that is which. I can either click in here and type if I've got 3 million of them open, or I can use the arrow key there. In fact, I don't even do that. I use that, which is I am using Option and backtick, which is the one next to the Z. And all I'm doing is moving between them. And then when I let go, it brings back that window. Now, sometimes that works without me having to do that. In rehearsals, it did. Trust me. That's why I picked that as a demo. Normally, if I were to hide that and then go back to Pages, it would bring the file back. Normally, even if it's minimized, if I move to something else and then I move back to Pages, it sometimes brings the file back. You can see it is not doing that at the moment. That's Pages, but worse than that is Affinity apps. They've been broken for months and months and months. Even version 2, broken. Big style. So what I've got in here, and it's Publisher, Designer and Photo. Right, if I go into here and I open my photo book, there's my photo book, and I go into here and I open my, I think it was test, or A4, whatever. Right, any of these, doesn't matter. Let's open up which is this one? A4, yes, A4 cover. Right, so I've got 3 files open. Right, and at that point, let's say that the photo book was the one that I had front and centre. And then I minimise the app. And I go and do something else, and then I come back and I go to Publisher. And never, ever does it bring back the last window that was open. What does it think I want to do? That is just annoying. People have been all over the forum for months and months and months, and they've just not fixed it. So you would have to go to the window, and you can see it's only got photo book listed. It doesn't even have the other 2 tabs. Well, I don't know what you think, but to me that's broken. That is not right. What I want to see, and I'm not even seeing it in there, but at least in here I can do that with a shortcut key and not have to go over to the dock or up to the window and open it. So that is why I have Which installed. That's what it's for. That to me is a little bit like Keyboard Maestro. It's fixing the stuff that another app has broken. Shouldn't be broken, but it is broken. All right, so that's the problem, and that is the problem that Which solves. I wouldn't say at the moment, if we go into the settings, it can just be annoying. Which installs as a preference panel at the bottom. Oh, it's in a good mood today. It wasn't in a good mood at the weekend when Jamie asked the question and bad words were said and I had to reinstall it. But this is what it's doing. In the actions, I want it to cycle the windows. So I've got ticks in all of these and telling it what I want to do. So when I use this keyboard shortcut, which is the Option and backtick, I want it to cycle the frontmost app's windows. So if it's got multiple windows like Pages had, it's working perfectly via this method here. But the problem with Which, well, actually, yeah, you could say it's Which, or it could be Vivaldi. But the problem that you've got is if you go in here and you want to search all your tabs, you're not seeing all your tabs. You're not even seeing all your workspaces. You're just seeing the one page that's open. So Jammy wanted to know how on earth he can search all of the tabs then. Right, well, before you get that far, I would say be organised, because you might not need to search them at all. So one thing, if your browser supports workspaces, is have some workspaces. This is my YouTube workspace. So this is my YouTube homepage. This is a couple, this is this live stream we're running now. This is a playlist for Reader that I'm working through, and this is just happens to be open in this tab, in this workspace. But these are my workspaces. My admin workspace has my mail, my calendar, pCloud. It has 5 tabs, and obviously it's got 2 extra ones open at the moment. This is the live stuff I'm doing on MacBites. This one with 2 tabs is the programming I do on a Sunday. And even though BASB, Second Brain, only has 1 tab open, it's worthy of its own space. Because when I start working in there, I will open up more pages. And I don't want them polluting anywhere else. My social has 2 tabs open. One is Twitter. I've no idea what the other is. I've probably opened something. It'll be dog related. And my reading one is if I want to read something later, that's where it goes. And how stuff gets into my reading workspace is I will open it from my email client. You know, you go through your emails, like I'll read that later. Oh, look, click that. And before you know it, you've got 10 tabs open. I breeze through them. And if it's like, that's rubbish. Oh, I might want to read this one. I will push them through to my reading tab. And then I might take 25 minutes and read through the stuff. And I close them as I go. So one thing, before you start searching for tabs, maybe organise them better to start with. These are the workspaces I always have open. I have 7 workspaces and I know the number of every one of them. They are always in that order, and I would have an 8th one for a demo if I was demoing something. That would be at the bottom. And that is important because I can navigate through them with a shortcut key with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. So if I'm looking for my social, I know it's number 6. That was only added about 2 months ago, I think, and it's a game changer. That is a total game changer. Another option you've got in terms of organising yourself is you can create tab groups. So if I opened up multiple windows here on a particular thing. So let's say we go to Audible, and let's say we open up another window, and that's my next book in the Tim Sullivan series. Right, so I've got these 3 tabs here, and these are all to do with Audible. You could group them together. You could certainly do that. Now, I can't do that because I hate grouped tabs. So I turn them off. I turn them off because as I'm moving these around, instead of moving around, they're creating groups of themselves. So I turned it off. I am never using that. Not happening. But your mileage may vary, in which case you can group tabs based on what they are. So going through the sale items, I would, if it's working. Most of the time it's not for me. But as I'm going through these, I may end up with 10 tabs open. And then I might want to create a group of those. To be honest, that's not how I do it. How I do it is the next option, which is, I think that sale is on till Sunday. And there are some books that I am thinking about buying. So I would open them all in tabs, and then I would select them all like that, and I would just save them. And that way I can come back to them later. So how I would do that is say bookmark 3 tabs. That's it, I'm done. I would then select them again, and then say close 3 tabs, and they've gone away. In my bookmarks, which are pretty organised, down the bottom there, those are the ones I've just created. And what I can do in there, although it doesn't indicate here you can open those all at once. You do that from the Bookmarks Manager, which you will find in there. So in here, there they all are, and you can open them all from in there. So that is what I would do with that. So basically, before you even start thinking, do you need to look through tabs? Do you need to search through all of these tabs? Maybe there are better ways to work with that. So we've looked at workspaces, tab groups, bookmarks. Don't forget that you've got the pages panel as well, which is over on the right-hand side of mine, but the left-hand side of yours. And you could navigate through them in there. So just options. Much better than that if you're using Vivaldi, is quick commands. So I have a tab open. I do believe it is in the reading thing. Oh, look at them. Right, so I'm going to deliberately not be in there. Right, so I'm in a totally different workspace. And I'm thinking to myself, I had that red panda thing open. Where is it? Without using any other app, any other technique, I would just use Command and E. And that will bring up the quick commands in Vivaldi. This is why I use Vivaldi. As far as I'm concerned, it's a total one-stop solution. All I need to do in there is say, yeah, it was a panda. And the first group of results it gives me, you can see I've been to PandaCam. Totally guilty of that. But you can see that the first selection that it gives you, the first collection of items, is tabs. And the top one says Twin Red Panda Cubs. I press enter and it switches workspaces and goes straight to it. Love that. Absolutely love that. So that is built in. That's not an extension or anything else either. So I'm going back to this one to show you that I can do the search on that. Right, the other way to do that is if you are elsewhere. So if you are in another app entirely and you are looking for something. What did I have on there? I think it was, what was my second tab in there? Oh yes, dogs. That's right, dogs. Right, so the built-in one is Command and E. That's your quick command. You just type what you're looking for. So if I put dog in, you can see animal dog breed. Right, but we're not going to do it that way this time. We're now pretending we're in another app. For me, this would probably be Obsidian or Notion, but if it's Notion, I'll be in Vivaldi anyway. So let's say Obsidian. And I'm working away, and I know that I've got a tab open, and I need to go to that tab. But I'm not in Vivaldi. That's where Raycast comes in. So I bring Raycast up. If I press V, you can see it will go to Vivaldi. I just press V, enter, and it'll go to Vivaldi. But if I type VIV, I've trained it that search tabs comes up. I do that. These are the tabs I've got open, all of them. Right? I'm looking for the dog one. There it is. It switches my workspace and it takes me straight to the page that I'm looking for. I was going to do this demo when I put in the BBC News page, but then I remembered what happened last time, so I didn't. I was once doing a live show and Michael Jackson died. That was the end of that. Who was the other one? There was another saga. I think I was doing a video on how Firefox worked and somebody bombed somebody and it started a war. Yeah, so I don't use the BBC page, let's put it like that. But dogs and pandas are relatively safe. Relatively safe. Okay, now, what else could you do? Well, you could have something that you open from a text expander. So instead of a bookmark or searching for something, if you know that you want to go to the BBC iPlayer, I would use section key, IP, and I'm at the BBC iPlayer. The beauty of that is it doesn't have to be in Vivaldi, it can be used in any browser. Or if I'm just writing a piece about the iPlayer, I've got the link straight at my fingertips. So then you've got, if we do a new tab, and we go into here, you've got speed dial. So that one's the YouTube one, but you're used to seeing my home one. I can go to any of these by just clicking on it. So that's another way to manage content. Now, while I was looking at this, I thought that's all very well. You know, for me, the fastest way is Vivaldi. That is the way that is Raycast. That is the way that I would do it, unless I'm in the browser. But even then, sometimes I just think it doesn't matter whether I'm in the browser or not. If I stick to one way of doing it, Raycast, VIV, I'm straight there. I don't even have to think. But then I thought, what if you're not using, so Raycast app, what if you're not using Vivaldi? So I headed off to Raycast. Now remember, Raycast is totally free, including the extensions. Now Alfred is totally free, but not including the workflows. So if I go to the store, bit of a misnomer because there's no charge here. This totally works with the free version. If I go in here and I type Vivaldi, you will see that that is what I've got installed. That's the one I've got installed. So I thought, what if I wasn't using Vivaldi? What if I was using Chrome? Because, we're trying to wean Mike off Chrome, but it's a long project, isn't it, Mike? So I can go to the store and I can put in there Chrome, and I will probably get 3 million of them. But if I look at this, you can see it's offering the same things. Search and jump to currently open tabs. So there's a whole range of these things for every type of browser. I then went back and thought, right, browser tabs or browser, right? That one's opened the profile, but there was one that returned multiple ones. Where did I put that? Maybe I put browser tab. Yeah. Now with this, search and navigate history and open tabs, that's for Arc. We've got a whole other range as well. So I went in there, we've got Arc. We did have Safari. I'm getting different stuff here, but there's one for Safari as well. So this one can manage that as well. So it doesn't really matter what browser you're using if you're using Raycast to search the tabs. So while which would be a grand idea, Which's capabilities are being eaten away with each update to the OS, whereas something like Raycast is independent of that. And I'm only suggesting Raycast over Alfred because with Alfred you'd have to pay for it, and with Raycast you don't. These are all totally free. So that is how I do it. The other issue with Alfred is even if you do have access to the workflows, you've got to go and find them all. They are already there in here, and I noticed as I looked at the Vivaldi one that was made by this guy, that this guy has done them for Firefox. He's even got Azure in there, Iridium, which I've never used, Opera, so a Brave, Edge, you name it, and Chrome. So he has written the same thing for multiple browsers, which would mean, irrespective of which browser you are particularly using at that moment, the interface via Raycast would be the same. So that is the way that I do it. So do we have any questions on that?
Yeah, there is a question. Richard says, do you keep these tabs outside of your second brain, or are they logged in there too?
No, they're not. Well, depends how we're defining a second brain. A lot of people think when you say a second brain, you've chosen an app and that's your second brain, but actually it's not. A second brain is a system rather than a single app. So for instance, I wouldn't say Obsidian is my second brain, neither's Notion. It's a whole range of apps, a whole range of services, and a whole range of workflows. So while they're not in an app, I do have them as bookmarks in case it takes one on itself and loses the lot. I don't tend to need to restore them that much. And there aren't actually that many of them. There's usually 8 tabs open in MacBites. In fact, if I go up here, I can look and tell you how many. 7 is right for admin. There's usually 1 in YouTube, unless I'm in the middle of watching something. So obviously I've got 3 tabs open there. There's usually 8 in MacBites, but there's 9 at the moment because we've got an ongoing project. There's 2 in the DAP one. Normally, yeah, 2 is right for that. There's 1 in Second Brain. There's usually 1 in Social. And Reading, I like to have 1. And that's only, there's nothing there. It just happens to be 1 tab to hold it open. So yes and no. It's part of my Second Brain system, but it isn't actually in an app. It's just in here. We got anything else?
Yeah, Patricia says, I think this is going back to ForkLift. Oh wow, how did you create the after hours named favourites in the binder?
Okay, let's have a look at that. Right, in here, when we have favourites up here, we can add favourites. So we've got show favourites, which is the sidebar. We can add something to favourites. We can add a path to the favourites. We can create a new favourite, which is at the level over here of Dropbox, Elaine, etc. But you can create a completely new favourites group. That opens your favourites in this window. So there's favourites, there's MacBites, there's After Hours, and these are the machines on your network. I've got no idea what that monstrosity is at the bottom, Mike. DP-something. Presume it's your work machine. I can't see even you calling a device that. So it has created this one called Favourites. So if we call that demo, we now have, so let's lose bonjour. That's just network. We have a demo, which appears down here at the bottom. We can move that around if we want, I do believe. Can we move that up? We can. So that pushes it between favourites and MacBites. And then what you would do is add a favourite to it. So if we wanted to add this shows folder to demo, we go up to favourite, we go add to favourites, and it asks you where you want to put it. So I would say demo, which is my favourites group, and hit add, and that would show it there. So you can have as many of those as you want. And what I tend to do with them is if I'm working on after hours, I don't want distracting. So I fold up all of the others and I'm only focusing on after hours down here. And then I would unfurl the others as I start working with them. So if I move to creating a MacBite, so this is me on Monday and Tuesday, I am focusing in there and I have a workspace as well. So I would enable the workspace and get to work. And all the folders that I need are in here. So hopefully that answers that question. Can you make ForkLift the default? Yes, you can. I haven't tried that yet, on the basis it wasn't broken. I will show you how you can do that. So in here, if you type in ForkLift macOS, that will take us to Binary Nights, which is the developer. And up there we have the manual. This is the entire manual. Half of what we've covered, not in the manual. I don't know why. But if you scroll down all the way to the bottom, so we'll do it over here, which is faster, there is how you make it the default viewer. So you need this command that you put into a terminal prompt, and then you need to reboot. And then if you ever want to set the default back to Finder, then you need this second command over here. Again, you add it at the terminal and you reboot and it resets it. I haven't chosen to do that. I'm guessing it would work. But you know, like if it's not broken, and it's not at the moment, and I don't want to upset the bird, I can only imagine what iCloud would do. But that is what you are supposed to be able to do with it. I've never done that with ForkLift, and I've never done it with Pathfinder. I think I just feel, you know, sometimes you need to reboot the Finder. And I'm thinking, well, if the Finder isn't the default Finder, what do I need to reboot? But if you want to try it, that is how you do it. So go to the Binary Nights homepage, click on the manual, scroll right down to the bottom, and it's the last thing before support. Those are the two commands. We got anything else?
No.
Okay. So let's get rid of that over there. And we have a freebie. PowerPoint is in a mood tonight, you know.
Is it?
Yes, yes. Apart from playing with my mind 2 minutes ago, we have a freebie. You'll like the freebie. The freebie is for InDesign, but the good news is it comes with an IDML file. So it is a company profile. It is fully fledged. It has got lots and lots of pages. You don't get the pictures with it because obviously they're from stock sites, but you do get placeholders for all of the images. The blocks that you see there and the icons, they're all included. All the text styles are included, and there's quite a few pages with it. To make that work in Affinity Publisher, what you need is the IDML file, and you can just open that as is. You can't write to an IDML file, but you can certainly read IDML files in and have access to a complete company report, which is rather nice, I think. I like that. It's a nice design. And that is where you will find it. So it's dz.com/product/65202/company-profile-free-template.
It's in the chat.
Yeah, it could have been easier, that, couldn't it? But that's where you will find it. Okay, if we haven't got any questions, we can hand straight over to you. Or in a second, we can hand over to you. So I need to make magic here at that point.
Hang on. I haven't pressed record.
Oh, you've got a couple of minutes yet. You've got a couple of minutes
right.
while I play around with this. We need to do magic. We've changed the way that we work, which you're probably aware of. And because we've changed the way we work, everything's changed. So I have to take a couple of seconds to set things up to make that work. Right, we'll put you over there. Then we'll try and get you on screen, Mike. So that one. That's not bad. Wrong screen, but it'll do. Right, let's view. Are you good to go now?
Yes.
Oh, good. Have you hidden your desktop? Because, people do have nosebleeds when they see it.
Yes, I'm going straight into Excel.
Jolly good. Away you go.
All right. This week's demo relates to a question that was asked by Peter in last week's After Hours. He wanted to know how to copy specific columns of a table into another table and have it update automatically. So, without having specifics, I kind of made a guess as to what he was asking, and I've come up with a demo. So, what I've done here is I've set it up so that both tables are on the same sheet, but that doesn't have to be the case. They can be placed on separate sheets.
Hang on, we've got echo on the audio. I don't know why we've got echo on the audio, but I will endeavour to make sure we haven't got echo on the audio.
Right.
Try that.
How's that?
That looks better to me.
Okay, I will carry on then. Shall I start again or just carry on?
Start again if you like. We wouldn't want people to miss it, would we?
All right, I'll start again. Right. This week's demo relates to a question that Peter asked last week in After Hours. He wanted to copy certain columns from a table into another table and automatically have them updating. Both tables here are on the same sheet, but they can be placed on separate sheets. The first thing you need to do is make a copy of just the column headings that you want. So to save time, I've done that. So I want to take the order ID, the location and the revenue. So I've copied the column headings. I've also I've also set up the formatting. So what I've done with these is I made them 18 points. So I've made these and a few rows underneath 18 points and made the revenue cells 2 decimal places to match these. Because the method I'm going to show you, the first method, doesn't copy the formatting across. So I've done that all already just to save a bit of time. It's actually very easy if you've got 365, which I know Peter has because I asked him last week, and it's using a function. It's using the choose cols function. So the first thing to do is to convert this into a table. So click in one cell, go to insert, go to table. I've done this a million times before. I'm sure you all know what a table is. So it's going to use A1 to E18 as the initial range for the table. It's going to use the data from the first row as headers. I'll click on OK. So we have a table. The big benefit of a table, as I've said a million times, is that as you add more data at the bottom, the table will automatically resize. If you add new columns, the table will automatically resize. So first thing I'll do is go to the table tab and clear the formatting. This is optional. You don't have to. If you're happy with the blue and white shading it's generated, you can leave it. I will also, on the table menu, take the tick out of filter button to hide the filter buttons off the first row. Again, totally optional. And then I'll give the table a name, or should I say I'll change the table name because the table already has a name. It's called table 1, but I always prefer to give my tables meaningful names. So I'll just call it drinks because that's what the data relates to. A little bit different to ice cream. There we go. So the table is called drinks. Then I'll go over to H2 and I'll put equals choose cols, as in choose columns. The array is the range I want it to look at, which in this case is the table called drinks. And then I specify the columns separated by commas. So it's column 1, column 3, and column 5. Because I want column 1 from the table, column 3 from the table, and column 5. And there we go. Simple as that. So if I changed one of these numbers, let's say to 100, you can see it automatically updates it there. If I added another row of data, and I'm not going to type, I'm just going to copy and paste to save time, you can see it immediately adds it at the bottom here. If I want to add another column, then what I can do there is I can insert the column. So in this case, I'll just insert a column between location and litres ordered. I'll change the column name to sold by. And what it hasn't done here is it hasn't included that column, which I don't want it to, because the formula is pick up column 1, column 3 and column 5. Well, there's column 1, there's column 3 and there's column 5. But of course we want the revenue. So I need to edit the formula and just change that to be column 6. And now the revenue appears back in here. What I can't do is I can't make this a table, because this block of cells contains dynamic array formulas. The choose cols function is an example of a dynamic array function, which is basically a set of modern functions that Microsoft have created. And for whatever reason best known to Microsoft, if you try and create a table from a range that's got dynamic array functions in it, you get a spill error. So that is part 1. I'll just see if there's any questions. I don't see if there's any questions.
No, they're discussing tripping, but I'm not saying any more about that.
Oh, okay. Right. So that's the first demo, which is relatively straightforward, because if you're using 365, it's just a case of take your original data, make it into a table, and use the choose cols function. But what if you don't have 365? Then it's a little bit more complicated. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use...
We've got a question. A question has just appeared.
A question has just appeared. Okay. Could you not use the column headers to select the columns in the formula? What I can actually do, Richard, is I can't use the column headers, but if I insert a column, insert a row, what I can do here is I can use the sequence function, and I can say equal sequence. I want one row, and the number of columns that I want is going to be determined by the name of the table, drinks, square brackets, and headers. But what I actually want to do is wrap the count A function around that. So if I then say yes, what it's done is it's actually generated a series of numbers. So the sequence function generates sequential numbers, starting at 1, although you can configure that. The default is 1. And in this case, it's generating sequential numbers starting from 1 and stopping based on how many items there are in that headers row. And what you could then do in here is you could substitute those with that number, comma, that number, comma, that number. Well, the cells with the numbers in. So yeah, you could do it that way. I don't think you could use the... Well, yes, thinking about it, you could use the actual column headings, but to do that, you'd have to use the match function. So that would work, because you wanted to match the position of that in that range there. But I actually think the sequence function is simpler. It gives you've got to put an extra row in, but I actually think overall it's simpler. But yeah, you could match on column headings, but you'd need still to generate the numbers for positions. You wouldn't have to put the numbers there. The numbers could be internal by using the match function. Okay, so hope that makes sense. Let me show you what you can do if you don't have 365, which uses the it uses a little bit more long-winded process, but I'll show you. To do it, I need to use the camera tool. The camera tool is part of Excel and it's hidden away. So what you do is you click on the 3 dots on this quick access toolbar here, which is just above the menu, and you click on more commands, change popular commands to all commands, scroll down this alphabetical list and find camera. There we go, and add the camera to the quick access toolbar. So there's the camera. That's the only way that I know that you can use the camera, is to add it onto the quick access toolbar, which, as I said, is this little mini toolbar here. Once I have done that, I will then select that range there, click on the camera tool and click on any cell. And what it's done is it's basically created a copy of the selected data and put it where I chose to put it. But it's actually an image. So it's a picture, and you can move this picture around. It's like any picture, it's floating on top of the spreadsheet. I'm also going to turn off the grid lines. I just think it's going to look neater without the grid lines. Although I'm wondering why those grid lines are still visible. They shouldn't be. Anyway, I won't worry about that now. They weren't visible in rehearsals, I can tell you that.
Everything works in rehearsals.
It does. But if I go and change this figure here, let's say to 200, it automatically updates that figure there, which is kind of cool. So it's basically a live linked picture. So if you click on the image and you look in the formula bar there, it's actually pulling in the data from A1 to E18. So if I went and changed this record, say to Madrid, oops, not there, need to click in there, Madrid, then it updates that to Madrid automatically. You can also have it set it up where you can add additional rows, and they would also appear in this this image here, and you can add additional columns and they would appear as well. But that's a little bit more long-winded. If you're interested in that bit, so if you're not a 365 user or you just want to see how I've done it, then watch this week's YouTube video, because I've used a very, very similar scenario to this. I've just taken it a little bit further. So, do we have any other questions?
Simon's arrived, but he was late.
Simon's arrived, but he's late. Oh, well, never mind. Oh, Richard likes the camera tool. He uses a lot in work. Yeah, camera tool is great. It's great on dashboards and stuff like that. And yeah, the match function. Well, the match function would be better if your columns were to move. Yeah, you're right on that one. Okay, so that is it from me for this this demo.
Oh, it's going to get tricky now, isn't it? Not that it wasn't tricky before, but it's going to get tricky now. Right, I need to make some changes, so we'll switch back to that, and then we'll do that. And then we would do that, only that's not working. Oh, that's better. Right, that'll have to do for reasons best known to itself. Oh no, it won't, you know. Well, what? What's the matter?
I was going to say, just before you go on, Kim's just asked a question, that's all.
Okay.
Can you delete a row with the camera tool? You don't actually delete the row with the camera tool, but if you... Well, actually... I don't know, Kim. I've just thought.
Would you want to have a look at that and report back shortly?
Yeah, I'll do that. Now? I'll do it now. I'll just go in and what's it? They reopen the file.
Right. Well, hang on, because I'm going to have to do things so they can see it.
Okay.
You get yourself set up.
Right.
And I'll get you set up over here.
Okay.
You can't make changes like that, you know. Not with this new system, or we'll all be tripping again. Right, okay. They can see your screen.
Okay, well, if I go and delete a row, so if I delete 10772, yeah, what it has done, it has deleted it from this this image. I guess that's what you're asking, Kim. So yeah, if you delete a row from the original data, then it will delete it from this image.
Did you notice what else it did then? It jumped to fill the space in the image, so the image was the same size.
Yeah, now what it doesn't do is it doesn't do that if you add extra rows. Everything gets squashed up, and then what you have to do is you have to go to picture format, reset picture and size.
Do that now. Yeah, it shrinks.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because if you're taking it for a dashboard, you've got a set size on the dashboard, even if the data changes. That does make sense.
Yeah.
Right. Are we done with that? Or do you have another one?
It doesn't look like there's any more questions, so I think we're done with that.
Okay. So we'll whip back into there. So I can whip back over here. This was all going to be smooth, wasn't it? But it's not going to be because I can't see the slides. Oh, we're going to need a plan B for this. Right. Let's put you on one side while I go back over there. Excellent. Right. So we are finally on to the black hole. We have looked at the black hole before, the basics, but today we are going to extend it. We are going cross-platform and multi-user at the same time. We know no fear, do we?
No.
Right, so first of all, for those who have no idea what the black hole is, we'll whip through where it came from and how we ended up where we are now. So, the black hole. This started in about 2009. And it started, version 1 was really simple. It was just an app. And while the app did have a name, we colloquially called it the black hole. So the app in question was called Drop Copy. And at the time, there was Drop Copy and Drop Copy Pro. Now, Drop Copy is still available. That is an image of the App Store yesterday. It's still available. Now, the reason why so many years on, it's still useful is when they brought out AirDrop, it was only for the very latest Macs. I mean, I can't even remember when AirDrop was a thing. Was it about 2015, something like that, 13, 15? But it didn't work on older Macs. It was one of those situations like Pixelmator that it just didn't work on older versions. Now, Drop Copy is, like it says there, the tagline, like AirDrop, but for older Macs. And I think we did have older Macs at the time, but the thing was, Drop Copy was around before AirDrop. But if you understand AirDrop, then you get an idea what Drop Copy did. So, we would install it. We didn't used to install it from the App Store. We installed it directly from them. There was a Pro version as well, but basically you installed it. And what it looked like on your computer was that. We kept it really simple. We installed it on 2 Macs, mine and Mike's, and all you needed to do to transfer a file, so from you to the other person, was drag and drop it over that icon on your desktop. So hence the black hole. When you dropped it, it lit up like that. It lit up when you hovered over it, and when you dropped the item, it would send the item through and that item would appear on the desktop of the other person. As I say, there was a Pro version, and in the end they had it that to make it easier with full screen apps, it was also available from the menu bar. You'll notice being available from the menu bar, it also enabled it to send it to multiple people at that stage. That was version 1, and we were quite happily using that until it broke, which meant we needed a version 2. Now, all version 2 was, we replaced Drop Copy with Drop Zone. And like I say, only because it broke, it was a point update to an OS. Cheers for that, Apple. And we set up a destination in Drop Zone. So for me, that destination was Mike's desktop, and for him, it was my desktop. That was the only change. We just changed the app. That was it. But then we needed version 3. Version 3, we stuck with Drop Zone, but we stopped dragging and dropping the files directly to the other person's computer. Instead, back then, we had an Airport Extreme and it was running the network. And on the back of it, there was a USB port. So we decided we would stick a pen drive in there and use that for the storage location. Now, up to this version, which is version 3, there wasn't a storage location. The files were just dumped on the desktop. Now, the huge benefit of adding this storage location and it being on the Airport Extreme was I was able to transfer files, and so was Mike, when the recipient computer was turned off. So if you imagine Mike turns his computer off, this was back in the day when he was 25 miles away working in a field, and he did leave his Mac turned off during the day. If I wanted to transfer a file to him, it didn't work because his desktop wasn't an available destination. So it took to this version to decide we would make it computer independent by having it available on the network. Then we moved to version 4, and this was all about improving it. We stuck with Drop Zone, we stuck with the Airport Extreme. But this version acknowledged that the single point of failure in the system was the single pen drive acting as the transfer location. So why that was a single point of failure was if I transferred a file to Mike and it landed on the pen drive and the pen drive broke before he got to the file, there was no copy of the file. So adding a second drive to the Extreme wouldn't provide the redundancy we wanted. So we decided that we would need some form of scheduled backup. That was when we added Carbon Copy Cloner to the system. And we made a disk image on one of our local machines, and that backed up the entire pen drive every hour. And we were good with that for a while, until we went to version 5. So we had version 4 for a few months, but the situation then was the requirements altered slightly. Mike was on site at work for at least 3 days a week, and he needed access to the contents of the black hole remotely. So we still stuck with Drop Zone as the mechanism for transferring the files, but the underlying storage needed to be in the cloud. The principle was exactly the same, but the location of the data was remote. Google Drive was already our preferred cloud storage provider back then. So adding this new requirement to everything else already being on Google Drive was the obvious thing to do. And that was what we did. And we had it on there for a good while. Until version 6. Again, we stuck with Drop Zone, but by then it had upgraded to version 4, hence the pretty new icon. And instead of Google Drive, we switched our storage location to Dropbox. Now, that was nothing against Google Drive. It was for other reasons that we had upgraded our Dropbox storage. And that meant that for the other features that we wanted, I'd quite happily settle for 50 gig at the time. We ended up with 3 terabytes of storage in Dropbox. So we figured we might as well use it. Added to that, Apple changed how cloud services needed to be compatible with macOS. And after trial and error, we decided that Dropbox was more suited to host the black hole. Everything else stayed the same. And that is where we are today. Now, in addition to the basics, that's the basics. But in addition to that, if you wanted to finesse the system, there were things that you could do with it. So I access the folders with Raycast. Before that, I used Alfred. And if I want a notification of new files arriving, I can do that via Hazel. They are completely optional steps, and Mike uses none of them. So the actual system itself can be summarised on one slide. And we've done this because now we need to make it work on Windows and multi-user. So the underlying system is incredibly basic. It only needs 3 things. You need some storage, and that can be local. It can be in the cloud. It doesn't matter. But obviously, if you're going multi-user and you're going cross-platform, it makes sense if it's in the cloud. It doesn't have to be Dropbox. It could be Google Drive, it could be pCloud, it could be any cloud service that you have access to from the device or devices that you want this to work on. So last week, pCloud was mentioned, and as long as you've got the pCloud client installed, you can use pCloud for this. The second step, which we've been using Drop Zone for, is that you are able to send files to the storage location. That's it. It's as simple as that. We use Drop Zone, it's easy, but it doesn't have to be. You can just drag and drop the file to the folder. The third requirement is that you can retrieve the files from the storage location. So as long as you have a method for each one of those steps, it will work. Cross-platform, multi-user. So that is the demo that I'll be showing you, how we can set that up. So let me move on there, get rid of that. Now, what I'm going to do over here is start showing you the basics, but I will shortly be switching over to you, won't I, Mike? So I need to get that sorted there. I think we are good to go with that. I think we are. Have you? I'm not sure what I'm looking at now with you. Oh, yours isn't full screen. Right, got you. Okay, so I'll start with ForkLift because that's where the data is. So we'll go in here and we'll do a single pane. And we'll get to Dropbox. So you can see this is what we did last night. It all worked, so let's get rid of it. So I've chosen Dropbox. Our black hole is on here. We have it hidden away in resources. There, black hole. And in there is drops for me, drops for Mike, and there's the configuration. That's it. So I've recreated it for multiple users. This is the demo. So I created a new folder. Inside that folder, I then created folders for 5 users, and I've left them named in the way that I would particularly name them. And Mike would like me to point out that Slacker Brian's there, isn't he, again? That's going to stick, that. Love that by Kim. So Brian's in there. Now, each of these is just empty. They are just empty folders at that stage. Nothing clever with them at all. This bottom one is the configuration. And in our black hole, we have a configuration folder. We have one file in there, which is this black hole icon there. And you'll notice that's the icon off the app. We just carried on using the same icon. The only thing with making it cross-platform is that we needed an ICO file. Obviously, it looks exactly the same, but it needs to be an ICO format to work on Windows, and that's what we'll be using when we head over to Windows and configure it on Windows. So those are the only 2 things we need there. You can use any icon you like. We just choose the one that we've used for the last 14 years. And that is it on the cloud service. That's all you need. You just need a folder for every person involved in the setup. And they don't have 2 folders, one for drops and one that they retrieve from. Obviously, they're retrieving from the same folder that the drops are sent to. The next thing is how things get sent there. Or is it? No, because as this stands, if we go back to Dropbox, you can see, particularly if I make this like that, it's not shared. Now, if I go into our resources, and you can see domain management shared and black hole shared, review processes shared. There's other things that aren't, but they're all shared. So that indicates that we need to share the folders. Now, you have a choice at this point. One option is to share the top level folder with everybody that it needs sharing with. The other option is to go very granular. So if we've got Anne as the manager and the other 4 people, including Slacker Brian, are employees and they should not have access to each other's folders, then you would have to do the sharing on a very granular level. But Mike and I just share the lot, and if these were equal people in the job, it's easier to share at the top level. Everybody has access to everything. Now that's important if Anne drops a file for Claire and then realises she needs to drop another one. If she drops another one, she can say overwrite it. But if she needs to retrieve the old one, she needs access to Claire's folder. So Mike and I work on the principle, Mike can get to my folder if he needs to, and I can get to his. This isn't to do with permission particularly. It's not nailing it down to the nth degree and stopping people have access. It's making something that's flexible. So Mike's going to be some of these other people. So I'm going to go to this level and I would need to share that. Now you can see I can copy a Dropbox link from here and I can compress it and copy it. That's not what I want to do. If I have Finder, I have access to Oh no, that's not good, is it? That's working, right. So at this level here, let me go into my Dropbox, and there's the thing. If I right click on here, I've got all of this because I've got the client installed and it's integrated with Finder. So I do need to do this via Finder. So in here, I want to share this. So share is the top option. If I click on share, I'm saying they can edit. I could give them just view access. You do that with managers, don't you? I remember doing that with half of mine. They shouldn't really have had a keyboard. So in here, I'm going to share this with Mike. So there is Mike. I can add a message, demo of black hole. There we go. And share it. Eventually that will go. Right, when Mike gets notification of that, he will need, although that's nice, isn't it? I can see that. That's disappeared before I could share it, but I could see that. Right, so Mike's just had a notification of sharing at his end, but you should also get an email, shouldn't you?
I should.
So do you want to get your email up and then I can show them that? So
there
because he was actually logged into Windows at the time, he got a notification from Dropbox. Happy for me to share that?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what Mike is seeing at the moment. He gets an email, says it's from me, invited to share the folder, etc., etc. Now that's important because at this stage, while he does have access, it's trying to find that folder in his Dropbox setup. So have we done this before where you add to Dropbox and it just works, or will bad things happen?
It should work.
Right, well you add it. We'll leave you live while you add it. And hopefully it doesn't go anywhere else. Like the bank site or something. There we go.
Right.
Right. So that is the actual folder. And if you look at the top of that, it says Dropbox/black hole demo. And it's showing you what is inside there. So did you need to accept it for it to go in root or whatever?
I think I've just done that, haven't I?
Right. So that's done it. So, okay. Right. We'll head back to mine then. Right, so that has given Mike access to it. At this point, I need to set up some mechanism that I can transfer files into the right place. So I should be able to show you on here as well, if we switch this to this view and we make them bigger and do a sort by name, we can see that this is now shared because it's got the shared icon on it. Right. So all I need to do if I want to transfer a file to somebody is navigate to their folder and drag and drop it. Now, obviously, that's what we use Dropbox for. Not Dropbox. Oh, Drop Zone. Too many drops in this. So I can show you what that would look like for transferring to Mike. So there's Drop Zone running up there. There's drops for Mike. I drag and drop to that folder. That's just how we use it. If you don't have that, though, there are some other ways that you can do it. So I'm going to go into the configuration folder in here, and there is the PNG icon there. So I am going to Command and A, Command and C. And in here, I can bring up for all of these the info. And I can click on each one and I can paste the icon in. When we tried this, watch it do something different tonight, Mike, but when in rehearsals, these were unique to me. Even though I'm doing it in the Dropbox, they are unique to me. I just want those like that. And there's a reason that I want them like that. Because what I'm doing is I'm going to show you how you could do it without Drop Zone. So remember, all I need to do is to transfer some files into these. I could navigate to here. That gets old fast. I could also take these and put them in my favourites. So there's Anne and Brian, and I think we've got Brian, haven't we, and Claire. So I could do that, and that way I'd only need to open Finder and use these. I could literally just drop them down here. One of the things I find annoying with that is that it doesn't keep the icons, but you could do that and have them in the right order. And then you wouldn't need to navigate down to the black hole level. You can just drag and drop in here. So I need a file of some description. I've probably got some in here, haven't I? I did. They were in there, weren't they? All of these. So I've got files. Right, so I will just randomly take a couple of these. And what I'm going to do is we'll give Slack O'Brien some work. Now, if I hover over that, you can see it's going to move them. But if I hold the Option key, it will let me create copies and then tidy them up in there like that. So it's that simple. And even though this is not my folder, I'm not Brian, I am not Slack O'Brien, right? I can get to these and think, oh, I shouldn't have sent that one. So I can just delete it. So that is one way that you don't need drop zone. You could just have them in the sidebar here. There is another option, which is if you are interested in it being as near as possible to drop copy, what you can do there is create a shortcut on the desktop like that. Oh, please tell me you're going to use the right icon, you swine. Right, it's not using the right icon. Now, how I'm doing that is I'm holding down Command and Option as I'm dragging that, and it's making a shortcut. So you could have multiple black holes on your desktop. So we're going right back to what version 1 looked like here, right? And you don't need drop zone. So if you're happy to have icons on your desktop, and I have changed how they display. So in here, this is the desktop thing. At the label position, I've got to the right. The default is at the bottom. I just have mine set to the right. That is an alternative. I am assuming here what I could do is go into there, and can I actually paste over that? I can, so I'd have to do it twice. God, thank you, Apple. Didn't used to be like that, but you know, why do things once when you can do them twice? So all I'm doing is pasting what I had on the clipboard over there, and now this is the multi-user part. We have multiple users. Thus. And if I go back in here, find my files in there. Let's do an Affinity Publisher one. There we go. There's the photo book. We'll drag that for Slack O'Brien. Right, and that has whipped through to Brian. So that is two ways of doing that. You could, if you were using ForkLift, make a special group in here. So as we've got our favourites, you could create another group. So up to favourites, down to new favourite group. Call that black hole, which is now down here at the bottom. And you can put in there all the shortcuts. So you could do that as well. So what we would need to do there, go to Dropbox, go to find the black hole demo. Here are these. We could just in there, favourite, add to favourites, tell it where, which one, black hole. And that one is Anne, and add. And it would go down there. Same for all of the others. Just select them, favourites, new favourite. No, not connect. No. Right. Brian, favourites. New favourite. What are you doing? That's not what I'm trying to do at all. Let me get back out of this. Oh, what have I done? Right, upper level. Right, let's just add Brian down here. Can we just drag and drop? That's much easier. Right, like that. So it's just different ways that you have access points to those folders to add files to them. So in this case, I would go to IBM After Hours 208, ForkLift, batch renaming, go grab some files, and again, drag and drop them to whoever I want to give them to, and that's it. Right, do we have any questions on that bit so far?
No.
Okay, so that's given us access to it. Now, if I am Ellie and I want my folder, I can just click on it. Now, what I do with mine, my real black hole, is in Raycast, I type BH, black hole. And that is a quick link. So it's not an extension of any description, it's just a quick link. And that will open it in here, and that is what I have in there. These are the new items that I've still been working with. This is the archive. I would go in Mike's, but it's probably full of all sorts, isn't it?
Probably.
Is there anything that's embarrassing in there? I don't think so, is there? Shall we find out?
I doubt it.
Right, if I do BHM, it will just open up another folder. Oh, it's done it on the other screen. There we go. Yes, it's full of all sorts. There it is. But that is Drops for Mike. Look where it is. Dropbox, Resources, Black Hole, Drops for Mike. And that is how we use Raycast to get to the black hole folders. And that is what we could do over here. All we need to do is, we'll go to Ellie's, right? Go up to here. That is Ellie's folder. So all we would need to do is make a quick link to that. So if we go to Raycast, no, but get to Raycast and do that, we can get into the extensions. These are the quick links that I have. So these are all of the quick links. You can create a new quick link just by giving it a name. So Ellie's black hole. No funny comments, thank you. And then in here, you find the directory. So it's that one up there. It's that folder and open it. And at the bottom, it's saying that's going to open with the Finder, which is correct. You could, if you wanted it to, you could set that to ForkLift. And that way, the black hole would automatically use ForkLift. But you have that. So do that to create it. And if we go up to Raycast, let's get rid of this behind it, and Ellie's black hole. And that would open up that folder. So Raycast is a really good way to do it. The only thing that it can't do that I wish it could, and it might do soon, you never know, it doesn't have a custom icon to make it stand out. Whereas it does in Alfred. So if we Alfred and black hole, you can see I can open up the black hole, which will open up, I think, the original black hole, possibly the Google Drive one. And you could open it in a browser. Now you might be thinking, what do you mean open it in a browser? Well, you've got to remember, it's in Dropbox. So it doesn't matter if it's Dropbox, pCloud, wherever it is. If you have a URL that you can get to the root of that folder, you can open it up in a browser. So what I've created at that stage, I could even access this on my phone or on my iPad. It is cross-platform because it's back-ended onto Dropbox. So we've got multi-user, we've got cross-platform. Next thing we need is it working on Windows and how you can do all that I've just done, but on Windows. Now, one thing you will need, and I had this somewhere, where did I have it? Was it that one? No, it wasn't. Oh, where did you go? Where did I put you? Let me do a quick search. There it is. It's that one. Right. This is how I converted the icon. So it's icoconvert.com. I chose a file, uploaded the black hole icon, as you can see, hit the upload button. Then there was another button where you can crop it if you want and then generate it. Now you can choose styles as well. But what I did in step 4 down here was say I want an ICO for Windows 10, 11, 7 and 8. That was a necessity. I could not find another way to create that. Not Affinity, nothing. Nothing would do it. So I just hit convert ICO and then I could download my icon. And it downloaded it. So if you want to do this with an icon you have on the Mac and you want it to work on Windows, you are going to need to convert it. And that's the way that I did it. icoconvert.com. Right, I need to do Magic Beans. Oh, this should be so smooth, and it's not. Right, so I'm going to hand over to Mike, and Mike is going to show how using exactly the same folders, he could set up exactly the same system on Windows. So if you're sharing with Windows, you will be good to go. Right, we're over to you.
Okay, so I'm going to go into Windows Explorer, or File Explorer. I'm going to find my Dropbox. There's my Dropbox. And it's that one, isn't it? Black Hole Demo. So if I wanted to add, for example, a shortcut to that folder on my desktop, I can right click on that folder and I can go to Create Shortcut. And from there, I can drag that onto the desktop. I can also rename that, just right click rename. And so we'll just call that Anne. And then I want to change the icon to the black hole. So I'll right click on that and I'll go to the properties. And then I will click on
down at the bottom, change icon.
Bottom, change icon. Now it's just moving the window across. Change icon. Click on browse, And
you're right, you're in the black hole. We put them in the black hole itself.
In the black hole, aren't they? Yes. So
it's very meta.
Yeah. So I need to go back and find Dropbox, black hole demo, and it's in that folder.
It is.
And there's the ICO file. So click on there, click OK, click OK again, and we have a black hole icon. So I can do that for other folders as well. So if I did it for our good friend Slacker, right click and create a shortcut. It creates the shortcut in the same folder, but I just drag the shortcut onto the desktop and then rinse and repeat. So shall I call this one Slacker Brian?
Slacker Brian, yeah. Shame him.
Brian. Especially for Kim there. Right click, go to the properties, change icon, browse, go and find the icon which is in that folder, select it, and there we go. No?
It's Slacker Brian, it's going to take a while.
That should have worked.
It should.
It should, shouldn't it? Should we try it again? Properties.
He's getting his own back on you.
Change icon, select it. Yeah, it's already selected. There we go. That's better. Okay, we can also drag a folder into other places. So what I can do here is I can either drag a folder, and I can do Anne, I can do Brian, I can do any of these. I can drag a folder over to, I'll choose Claire because I've still got the Anne one there from when we were testing it. So I can drag Claire and drop it within this quick access area. So so all it does is it basically creates a shortcut to the real folder. There we go. So you can have it there, or you can right click and you have got an option that says pin to quick access. That does exactly the same thing. And you've also got pin to start. So I can right click and pin to start, which I've just seen. Where's it gone? There it is, halfway down. There's too many options on these menus now, but there it is anyway. And that then appears on the start menu. So you can actually have your shortcuts on the start menu like that. So that is various ways that you can do it on Windows.
But they are pretty much exactly what you've got on the Mac, aren't they? So the ones on the desktop actually give you the black hole icon to drag and drop stuff. The ones in the quick access mimic the Finder. I'm not sure about the start menu one, because there isn't really an equivalent of the start menu, is there?
No.
And putting them on the dock would be nice, but who knows? Right, so we'll switch back to me. And I was there. And that is how you do it, multi-user and cross-platform. So, have we got any questions on that?
It doesn't. Patricia says, "Wow, that's perfect." So I presume she was talking about what you did before.
Well, it's the whole thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've simplified it by cutting it down into like 3 parts with an optional fourth. And the fourth is just the finessing of it. Do you want notifications and all of that? But basic usage is 3. Just think of it in terms of 3. You need storage. It could be Dropbox, it could be local, it could be pCloud, it could be Google Drive, it can be anywhere. If you want access for other people on other networks, it's going to have to be a cloud service. But beyond that, as long as you all have access to the same cloud storage and the folders on there, it will work. So I know you specifically mentioned pCloud, and pCloud would work just fine with this. Everybody would need access to their shared folder. So you create one folder at root, one folder inside that for everybody else, and then the optional thing is your configuration. That is the best place to put the instructions and the icons and stuff. Trust me on that. I've had them elsewhere for years. Put them in the same folder. And then it doesn't matter. So we've actually moved from Google Drive to Dropbox. We've had it local. We've had it on a pen drive. We've had it all over the place. But the principle still holds good. Then everybody needs an easy way to send the file. And that's where your icons on the desktop or drop zone or in the Finder or in Pathfinder comes in. You just decide. I mean, you can put the lot in if you want. We pretty much only use Dropbox, but that's just historic. But you can have all of the methods in there if you want, because some people will prefer one over another. They're bound to. Depending on the number of people involved, you might not want 27 icons on your desktop. But if you've only got one or two, because I don't put anything on my desktop, so it might make sense for me to have just a shortcut on the desktop, because it would be the only one that was there anyway. But you just need a method to transfer files to that folder. And then you need to be able to retrieve from it. So the way that I've demonstrated it tonight, everybody has access to everybody's folder. And that way they can go delete stuff that they want to take back or whatever. But your security may vary on that. It just depends. But I left it as open as possible. And the other stuff is just finessing it. But as soon as you say to somebody, oh, I'm implementing a black hole system for you, they'll love that. It's just the name of it. They just love it. So, do we have any questions on that?
No.
Okay. Oh, Kim's liking the black hole on steroids. Yeah, I mean, if you do have people, we still think of it as local storage. We still think of it as just drag, drop, you're done. If you do a comparison with AirDrop, it is like AirDrop, only faster, and it works. Have you noticed you can't AirDrop to me? I don't know why. Maybe I've got... Oh, it's only the new machine. Every other machine works fine, and the iPads just go crazy. Oh, AirDrop, incoming AirDrop, and they go mad. But it just doesn't come through to the Mac Studio. So we don't bother with AirDrop anymore. It's a waste of time. Just send it to the black hole and I'll pick it up later. And it's just become part of how we work. Okay. So Simon's saying, that's what I meant about drag thing. You could have the black hole icons fly on and off the screen. Yeah, I remember drag thing, many, many years ago. And pretty much it was like, do you use drag thing or do you use drop zone? One or the other. And I use drop zone inside Bartender. So we just do it that way. Don't know what happened to drag thing. But of course, the problem is you've got the great innovative apps that have such an amazing interface. Apple will probably make sure that you never see the light of day again. That's the problem with them. There was one app, was it on Clutter? And it came down from the top of the screen. It was great. And there was a clock that did the same thing, and then that died a death after. Apple said you can't do that. So they just locked it down. So at least all of the methods that we've demonstrated tonight are cross-platform. It doesn't even matter if it's Linux. And to get all of this on iPad, so, when Mike was at work and it was like, I need that file. And yes, you could email it to him, but, you couldn't email more than 2K, could you, before it fell over? It was just easier to just stick it in the black hole and he would pick it up on a device. He could even pick it up in a browser. So it's cross-platform, it's multi-user, and it works brilliantly, and it has done for the last heaven knows how many years. Right, Patricia's got a question. No, Paige, no, Patricia. Is that right? I've got the right
Patricia.
One. Right. How do you find the drop copy app without the background? I presume you mean the icon. The app is free on Mac, so you would download it and you would be able to copy the icon from there. Drag thing didn't cross the 32-bit barrier. I remember it was really, really popular. Drop Zone wasn't as popular, but Drop Zone kind of went more businessy, whereas drag thing didn't, and it was most unfortunate. I mean, you've got other apps. I'm thinking, there's a copy app, and it flashes up this little thing where you could do that. But the problem with that was that didn't work properly either. I don't think it had access to remote storage. So half the time, I mean, don't forget here that this whole system came out of the fact that Apple broke the app. Drop copy was working fine, and then Apple updated, and then it wasn't. And you've got to, the slide you're looking at, you have to break it down. Okay, there's 3 steps to this. I need potentially 3 apps, or 1 app for storage and then 1 app for the other half of it. Break it down into the core elements of what you need, and then if part of the system breaks, I mean, if Dropbox disappeared tomorrow, we'd just move it to another cloud, and the rest of it would stay exactly the same. Likewise, if Drop Zone disappeared, we'd probably put icons on the desktop, or we put them in the sidebar. We may look around for another app that did the same thing, but we've defined each part of the process, and those are the elements that we need. And as long as it's got those elements, it doesn't matter what platform it's on, it will work. You could probably access some of this stuff on a TV these days, you know. Obviously, we've not got one, but if we had, then maybe we could do that as well. Okay, right, I think we're done on that. So, what have we got coming up? Well, we'll be back next week, same time, same place. And if you were lucky enough to get the first day delivery, some of us may be sporting new phones. Who knows? And on demand, we've got everything that we do. So you will find that at youtube.com/Elaine Giles. There is a MacBites After Hours playlist, which has all of the shows on it, right back to the first one, almost 5 years ago now. 5 years in a few weeks. So you'll find that at macbites.co.uk/After Hours playlist. And of course, we love you guys. And if you love us, you could give us a like, because it really helps with YouTube, who has a weird algorithm, don't they? They're kind of, it's weird. Let's just put it like that. So we like lights and they like lights. You could also subscribe and hit the notification bell, and that way you won't miss anything that we put out live on the channel. Right, there is my list at elainegiles.com/VIP. I will write a mail. I've been terribly busy, but it's coming into quarter four, and I've got no excuse then, have I? You will also need to be subscribed to macbites.co.uk/macbites-mail, because Advent is so much closer than you think. It's less than 80 days away. As is our holiday, isn't it? Considerably less than 80 days. Not that I'm counting or anything much. I am. Okay, Slack is where we carry on the conversation. So if you are not already a member, you need to go to macbites.co.uk/join Slack, and you'll be able to sign up totally for free. If you are a member, you need to go to macbites.co.uk/Slack, and you will be straight in there. And that is where you can find us. So let me do that. Excellent. And that's where you'll find us. Right. Oh, Simon, we talked about that a while ago. Did I see the subscription price on Twisted Wave? You were horrified. I did, and we did it. I would say it wasn't my primary audio editing app at one point, but we changed how we did everything, and now it is. So it was a case of like, do you want to upgrade? Well, in that case, there you go. I did check, and I'd paid the princely sum of about £32 in 2011. So I figured they deserved some money as well. It is the best audio editing app. Come on, Simon, you know it is. Even though we assemble the show with Hindenburg, that is not how I actually edit the audio. All of the audio is edited in Twisted Wave. I wish you could see my desktop right now. I've got Mike's desktop flying around, and you know, I wasn't epileptic before he started. I think I might be now. I'm going to get rid of it, Mike. It's too much for me. Right, that's easier now. That's much easier. Oh, Simon's jaw didn't just drop, it broke. Well, you don't need the transcription. And what was the other one? There was transcription and something else that were extra services. And if you've had it, you go straight to the 3-year discount. So, yes, I did see it, and we did it. We did talk about it, and I did a demo of the features. Oh, gosh, was that about 3-4 months ago? Something like that. But yes, I did. Kim enjoyed it. Excellent. I'm glad you enjoyed the show, Kim. Anything with the black hole in and Slacker Brian, he's now one of the cast, isn't he? I'm actually thinking I'm going to have to rename the show, Mike, to get the Slacker Brian in. We had it as by request. The by request of Slacker Brian. There you go. That'll work. Oh, you have a good weekend too, Simon. So, do we have any other questions?
We don't.
Is everybody really quiet and tired and heading to bed? I've just seen tomorrow morning's papers, and apart from the fact that there's a bulldog that everyone's going on about, well, not one bulldog, it's a breed, isn't it? There's been quite a few attacks with these dogs. What are they called?
Bulldog XL or something. I
thought they were American bulldog. Well, whatever. They're these dogs that are incredibly strong, and they've attacked a lot of people.
Bully XL. That's American Bully XL.
I thought there was American in there. But I'm not kidding, Mike. I remember 91. I remember this. It was a bloke that got attacked by some dog or other. And it was a totally different breed. So somebody put on Twitter something like, in the 80s, they blamed X breed. In the 90s, they blamed German Shepherds. In the 2000s, they blamed Bulldogs. And now they're blaming these American XL dogs. Have they ever thought of blaming the owners? And I thought, that is so true. I mean, we've seen dogs and they're nothing like as strong as those dogs. And they're off the lead and uncontrollable. You ever thought of putting a dog on a lead and keeping it on a lead? There's an idea. You know, where there's people and children about. Anyway, in the midst of these pictures of all these dogs and then the naughtiness they've been up to, was a big page spread that said, today was the last day of summer and we're going into autumn. It's going to be cold and raining. I'm putting the buntings out. Can't wait. June was just obscene, wasn't it? June was absolutely boiling, over 100 degrees a day. And then we went into July. July wasn't bad. August wasn't bad. There was only like a week of it. And then we went into September and it was boiling hot. And I'm like, what is this? It's September. So I said to Mike, it can't last. It can't go into October. He was thinking it might do. But no, it's not going to. So I'm happy. How many people have said, though, the fan was on a couple of days ago and now it's like, can we put the heating on? It goes from one extreme to the other here. But I'm happy. I'm very happy if it's going to get cooler. Is the humans at fault? Exactly. I mean, these dogs, they're the type of dog that attract a certain type of person. I mean, I'm thinking of a person, I won't name names, who wouldn't have his dog done. We call it a battery removal. He wouldn't have his dog done because, he wouldn't be manly. And then, instead of putting a collar and a lead on this dog, or a harness and a lead, could you even describe what that dog was wearing?
No.
It was a harness, but a harness, when we're picking a harness, now, I mean, obviously, our dogs have been white. Picking the red one can be dodgy if the dye runs. But luckily, we got one, and the inside of it was like furry, like a cream coloured. So we did that one. And luckily, the dye hasn't run. So we've had blue, we've had black, and we've had red. Lola wears red. But we get the padded ones so they don't, pull and pinch. This dog was in leather with studs on it. It looked like an Iron Maiden tribute band. And the leather that it was in, it was virtually like armour. There was no give in it. It didn't bend. And I thought, that dog cannot be comfortable in that. Oh, he's got to look hard. I thought, why? He's a dog. It was just unbelievable. He was dressing the dog as if it was him. and he had issues, shall we say. So I've always thought it's the dog owners. Good dog owners, we would never, ever have a dog off a lead. It's as simple as that. If you're in the park or, you just wouldn't. You have no idea what could spook a dog. And the dog could get hurt. Not to mention the fact, do you remember when we got dog insurance? My mum was like, I don't know whether we need dog insurance. And I'm like, I think we should. And she was like, they never had dog insurance in my day. And I'm like, I think we should. And what I wasn't telling her was, because we got Maya not long after this spate of dogs attacking people, when a dog had attacked somebody, the person who had been attacked, and I'd actually worked on cases where people had been attacked. That was the one that I doubled the money, do you remember? Well, she'd been left scarred. And I was always on the side of the plaintiff. And because of that, who do you sue? Because people don't tend to have money to pay.
She's on the bench.
Oh, you go sort her out. So people were claiming on the house insurance, and obviously it wasn't our house, it was Mum's house. I didn't want to tell her that, but I didn't want her house insurance involved if Maya ever bit anybody either. So I said, no, I think we need this health insurance. And with this health insurance came insurance for up to £1 million of damage. And once we got to know Maya a little bit better, £1 million was probably enough, but you know what I mean. So if a dog got out and caused a road accident or bit anybody or anything, you were covered with this insurance. But I mean, most pet owners just let dogs off leads. They're attacking kids. Oh, honestly. I mean, I really do think there are places where you can take dogs where they're secluded. But round the corner, there's a park, and this park is really quite big, and there's trees at one end of it, and a brook where you can cross over, so people use it as a shortcut. And on it, there is a self-contained area. And people open the gate to this thing and let their dogs in and run around. And it fascinates me because it's actually the children's playground. And I'm like, why are you letting your dog loose in the children's playground? Fair enough, they're checking if there's children in there first. But, you know, a dog might poo and that is dangerous for children. So why are you letting your dog out of your sight? But that's just me. Maybe I'm overprotective. Oh, okay, let's have a look. Glad you enjoyed it. Excellent content. I have some work to do to implement, but thank you. You are very welcome. Oh, we're quite a team. That should have been smoother tonight. But what was happening was Mike's screen was full screen on one of my screens and I was sharing two screens, which is where it got complicated. But then other stuff was appearing on that screen and making Mike's screen minimised. So then I had to move everything. And then there was the double audio. There wasn't double audio in rehearsals. But I will deal with that. There won't be double audio again. Oh, it sounds like Kentucky weather. It's very, we would say it was an Indian summer once it gets into September. But this year has been the only year that since they started keeping records that there has been weather over 30 degrees, which is around 80 odd, for 6 consecutive days in September. And we've also had like knock-on effects from that, like the milk truck exploding. Heathrow got shut, but 20 flights were cancelled because they didn't have enough staff. No idea why they didn't have enough staff. Probably something melting. Because the thing over here is once it gets hot, it takes a long time to cool down. And when it gets hot, it's not uncommon for the tarmac to melt. So you can have like a really hot day and think, oh, that's great, because you won't have any snow and slush on the runway. No, but the runway will melt, and then they'll have to resurface it. That just happens. It's shocking here. Completely disorganised we are. Oh, Patience has got a pit lab mix. Great with people. Other animals can be dicey. That just depends on the other animals, though, doesn't it? Or their experiences. He's the most lovable old man you would ever hope to meet. I always wonder when it's children. Children just assume that they can pet dogs. And I don't think that is a safe assumption. Ever. I have asked people, you know, in the past, is it all right if I pet the dog? But I hold my hand out underneath its chin. I don't go for its head. I think you're pretty much the same now, aren't you? Mm. But you would always ask if the dog's okay. The one that got me was a friend of ours who was not fond of dogs, but considered this particular dog to be fairly safe. It was a guide dog in training, and it was only 2 weeks off finishing its training and being farmed out as a guide dog. And he said, oh, you know, you'd be fine petting it. She put her hand out, the dog bit her. A guide dog. 2 weeks left on its training. So he said straight, that is not going to make a guide dog now. You know, that has never happened before. She wasn't threatening in the slightest. So why did it bite? And you've got no idea. That could clearly happen to any dog at any point. So I would always like to think if somebody came up to Lola that they'd actually say, is it okay? I mean, she's as soft as anything, and so was Maya, wasn't he? Except when he was foaming at the mouth of the window.
Some guy asked me the other day, he said, can I pet her?
Yeah, I think people should ask, but I think a lot of children don't.
No.
It's the parents that say, just a minute, ask.
Yeah, the parents do.
And if they're not with a parent, then what are you supposed to do? You know, you're thinking. I mean, I remember once, the worst thing I ever heard.
I said no to some little kid a couple of years ago. It was the middle of COVID.
I remember that. Oh, God, the mother had to take the kid back crying. No, the worst one that, what was I going to say? The worst one I ever saw in terms of asking to be petted and stuff like that. Oh, was it Maya? It's something with Maya. Oh, well, I'll have to remember what that was. I'm clearly of that age. People go for Kiva's head all the time and she hates it. I think with a dog, you don't know the history of the dog. I know a lot of you aren't in this country, but have you heard of a dog? There's a hashtag on Twitter called Sophie from Romania. And Sophie was a rescue dog from Romania. And she was adopted by a guy who used to be the tech correspondent for the BBC, Rory Keflin-Jones. And he lost his dog. He'd had a dog ever since I'd been following him on Twitter, which was 2008. This dog was called Cabbage, and they'd rescued this dog. It was a little sheepdog thing. And she died. She was a good old age and she died. So they decided they would go for another rescue dog. But this is what it's like trying to get a dog in this country. They couldn't get one. Now you're thinking to yourself, there's plenty of rescue dogs. Yes, there are plenty of rescue dogs. And when you try and get one, they put you through such questions and answers and home visits and stuff. And the thing is, he has Parkinson's disease. So they wouldn't let him adopt a dog. So he decided he would get a Romanian rescue dog. There was lots of Romanian rescue dogs looking for homes. So they decided they would get Sophie. Sophie arrived a day before Christmas, I think. And she was terrified. And I mean terrified. They handed her over after this road trip of about 3 days. And there was a photo of him holding her. And that was the last time he's ever held her. He put her on the floor and she ran. And she hid behind the sofa. And she hid behind the sofa for 7 months. How they have had the patience with this dog. But you can't just go in and pet this dog. Obviously, she is absolutely terrified. And for 8 months, everyone's been following the story. In fact, we're into 9-10 months now. And she's got better. She's not hidden behind the sofa for 2 months. They have a dog whisperer. He's called Sociable Dog. And he's helping them with this dog. And she's doing great, isn't she? Mm. But, you know, there's no way you could pet this dog. No way. It took 3 of them to get her to the vet for her shots. And they took food and she can't walk on a lead. She was shaking like a leaf the second they took her out of the house. So I just find people who march up with, can I pet your dog? Do you know what? Go away. I know you mean well, but go away. Because you just don't know. You never know. Let me catch up here.
I'll tell you a funny story. There's about 4 or 5 of us meet on the park in the mornings, and there's this dog called Buddy, and his party trick is to steal other dogs' balls and not give them back. Now, Buddy's owner has got a bad leg, so one of the other guys brings Buddy out. So it was time to go. And Buddy had stolen the ball of another dog. And the guy who owns the dog who the ball was stolen from had to get one of the other guys to get the ball out of Buddy's mouth because he knew Buddy better than the other guy did.
They always... Well, I'd never had a dog. I was desperate for a dog, wasn't I? Since I was about 5. And Mum was saying no. So when she said, why don't you get a dog? Well, I needed gas and air, didn't I? Bring me round. But I started reading books about training puppies and stuff. And one thing that they said was, you know, dogs eat last. Clearly don't live here with Samoyeds, do they? And you should be able to take their food away. And I felt awful doing that with Maya. But, you know, you'd put a bowl down and then you'd pick it up again. Then you put it down again. You know, and this went on for a good few months while we were training him and hand feeding him. But, you know, I was so glad that I had. Because as he got older, he couldn't bend down as much to eat. And he had a habit of eating too quickly. So we took to hand feeding him. And obviously he took to that nicely. He had no problem with your hand in his dinner because it was like when he was a puppy. So they were quite right to do that. But, you know, these are things that people who either haven't had dogs or, you know, didn't train themselves up with a dog. It's a dog, how difficult can it be? That don't know that. You know, I'm reading here about Deb. That's shocking. I mean, a Rottweiler to start with, but jumping a fence and chasing after somebody is just shocking. I'm not surprised anybody is terrified after that. So yeah, I mean, if I pet a dog, you know, I do ask, but to be honest, I kind of wait for them, and a lot of people offer, you know, oh, she's fine with people or he's fine with people. But wow. Jammy's the same, can't stand it when people assume they can just pat my girls. Doesn't like children at all in the house as soon as they charge at her. That's the thing, I don't understand children. I mean, parents are supposed to teach children what's dangerous and what's not. And dogs can be dangerous. Even a friendly dog can be dangerous, like the guide dog that bit someone. It doesn't have to be, it's nothing to do with the breed, it's to do with the owners and the dog and the circumstance. So I just think, keep a safe distance. I mean, I do remember, you remember when we were in, I can't remember, was it Portswood in Stockport? Yeah. This was before we had a dog. And we were on this dual carriageway. Now, a dual carriageway isn't quite a freeway, but it you can drive at 50, 60 miles an hour on it. And we were going downhill as well. So we're going downhill in a place called Stockport, which is about 15 miles away. And there was a wooded area to the left-hand side of us. And I spots a guy opening the back of a huge, SUV and letting 2 dogs out. The thing was, one of these dogs was a Samoyed. Well, I screamed at Mike, pull in! So he's doing 60 down this road, like, what? I said, just pull in! So he pulled in, and there was this guy with the dogs. One was a German Shepherd, and the other was a Sami. And it was so funny, because he said, he was saying, this is AJ, that was the German Shepherd. He said, and this is Polar. And I looked at him and I said, are you Polar Richardson? And I'd seen him online. I'd not seen him, I'd seen the dog. And he was like, yeah, that's us. Remember that? Mm. And, it was like, I'd love to pet the dogs. Are they, would they be okay with that? And they were, and I think if you haven't got a dog, you are less aware of how careful people should be. But, when Mike used to walk Maya past the school, didn't you? And even at the weekend, there could be like a summer fair or a Christmas fair. And honest to God, before you knew it, you were surrounded by 50 kids. I mean, it was a good job Maya was that laid back, wasn't it? I mean, he lapped it up. Oh, he loved it. And yeah, that's Samoyeds for you. Mm. But I still think, you could have one kid at the back that pinches the dog and the dog bites the one at the front. You just don't know. So it's not something... I remember when I took Maya out, I was walking up the street. Mike was away for a couple of days, weren't you? And I took him out. And I thought, let's just say you were fitter than I was. So we heads off, and the first thing we see is a cat. And I thought, oh, good grief. So we have to cross over, because there's this cat. Maya wants the cat. The cat didn't want Maya quite as much. While I'm on the other side of the road, a dog comes round the corner. And I'm not as au fait with all of the dogs round here as Mike was. So the woman, as I'm crossing over to the other side, the woman shouts, it's okay, they're friends. So I cross back over. But honestly, that's what it's like when you're out walking, isn't it? If you see a dog and you don't know if that dog's friendly. Didn't you see one last week that had a coat on saying it was a nervous dog or something? It was a vicious dog.
Yeah, she wanted to go and say hello to it.
That's Lola.
And the woman said, it was in the distance, so obviously couldn't tell. And as I got closer, it had this little coat on, like you said, that said it was of a nervous disposition. I said, come on, let's give it some room.
But you have to, because you don't know. The worst dog round here, because it's comical, wasn't it? It was at the time when Cameron was Prime Minister, and this dog was called Cameron. And it was a rescue, and the woman who'd taken it was uncontrollable, wasn't it? I wouldn't say it was particularly vicious.
I had to sit on it once.
Yeah, it was either... Well, when I say vicious, it didn't attack people, and kill them. We've had like 6 people dead in the last couple of weeks. Mm. It wasn't that, but... You could not control this dog. You had to keep it away from your dog. So when my dad took Maya out, he took out a walking stick with him. Not one with like a bent handle, but one that was like an old-fashioned like man of the sea type thing. And he said he wouldn't think twice, dealing with a dog if it attacked. And there were quite a few that were vicious, I would say. I never thought of Cameron as... He was just beyond control. And she'd run behind him going, Cameron, you're a very naughty boy. And that's what made it funny, because you're thinking Cameron's the Prime Minister and she's saying you're a very naughty boy. It was like a Monty Python sketch. So you're right, you had to sit on it to keep him down while she came up with the lead. He should never have been off the lead.
I threw a bag of poo at it once.
But this is what you have to do.
Yeah.
I remember one dog came up quite aggressive with Maya, and I had no choice. I stood in front of him. Maya's going mental because he's trying to protect me, and I'm stood there thinking, this could be good night Vienna if this dog carries on. But what can you do? What can you do? And then Maya was as bad, wasn't he, with that woman? We went up to a place called Knutsford, which is really quite posh, very expensive houses, 5 million. A garage is 3 million. And we were on a field, and it was what's called a car boot sale. So Mum was having a whale of a time, looking at all this stuff. And me, Dad, were you there? I think you were, but I think you were at a distance. You weren't close enough to do anything about it. Dad had hold of Maya, and I was walking alongside. And this woman came up and she said, "Oh, what a beautiful dog." And she was dressed in like riding gear, so obviously a well-to-do lady. She gets closer, and of course she's like, "Oh, what a lovely dog." So she loved dogs, thank God. Maya took off and put his paws on her shoulder, sent her flying. So she ended up in the mud. Luckily, she was okay with that. She said, "Oh, my fault for getting excited." But this is the thing. What can you do? Somebody comes up like that, all effusive. He thinks they want to play. He starts playing. It wasn't vicious in any kind of way, but this is what you're dealing with. And I don't think non-dog people just don't understand. So when I see a kid coming, I think, oh, please, no, let me go another way. Oh, German Shepherds are so beautiful. Yeah, I do like a German Shepherd. I saw those when I was a kid and fell in love with them at the local police thing. Greater Manchester Police had an open day. And part of this open day, you couldn't pet the dogs, obviously. They were working dogs. But they did put on a display, like agility and also catching criminals. So obviously a policeman dressed up in like a rubber suit, like Michelin Man, and he ran off, and then they let the dogs loose and they dragged him to the ground. Oh, I just loved it. I thought they were amazing. Absolutely amazing dogs. Oh, I love huskies. I watch Sherpa all the time. We like Sherpa, don't we?
We like
Sherpa's on YouTube. Sherpa and Sherpa's Day. Oh, they are just... they're lovely dogs. I may have gone for one of those rather than a Samoyed, because the first dog that I saw that was like, I want that dog and no other dog will do, was Due South, Diefenbaker in Due South, who was a deaf husky. But my mum wasn't overly keen. They can have very strange eyes. Like, they get angry and their eyes go bloodshot, and it freaked her out. We went to a dog show, and there was a huge van, and this van had like 15 huskies in it. And I'm like, look at the pretty doggies. And she's like, look at the one with the blue eyes. That's scary. And then it started barking. And no, it was a definite no on that. She needed something that was more teddy bearish, didn't she? She wanted a Chow Chow, but I wanted a Samoyed. So a Samoyed won. But we have seen chows, haven't we? Mm. But even when we stopped, we were coming back from church one night and saw a chow. But we stopped and said, oh, well, what a lovely dog. What's he called? How old is he? But we didn't say, can we pet your dog? It was just like, he's a lovely dog. Oh, they look like teddy bears. They're adorable. Right, let's carry on up here. What we got? I can't scroll this text thing. Oh, I can. There we go. Right, let me carry on, because I was back there. Right, so Patience is talking about Patience's dog, and it took 2 straight weeks for her husband feeding her before she'd come near him. That's the thing. Dogs are complicated. I don't think non-dog people understand how complicated. Some dogs are incredibly friendly, like Jamie says, and you'd be okay with them, but then I would have thought you'd be okay with a guide dog. Maybe it was just a duff guide dog. I'm glad you did the same with Kiva. Not just me, then. Like barking mad with dog food all over my hands. But it is important, that, and it became more and more important the older he got. You can now get a bowl, because Sherpa's got one, hasn't he? A slow-eating bowl. And basically it's like a bowl that's got like plastic pieces that stick up from the bottom, and they have to work around the plastic pieces to eat, so they can't eat too quickly. They've got to work to get the food out, which is probably a good idea. She's having a bit of a moment, isn't she, with what bowl she'll use? Yeah. Poor Mike said this all week. First off, she wouldn't eat the dog food in the dog bowl. Then she had chicken in the dog bowl. That was fine. And we joke because we've got bowls from when Maya was here and they were blue. And her bowls are pink. So we have boy bowls and girl bowls, and she eats out of either. Until she got to the point with the chicken, she wouldn't eat it out of either, would she?
No, but she'd eat it out of my hand.
But she'd eat it out of your hand, and she took a liking to one of our poppy dishes. You know what Mum was like with poppy dishes. So she's been having it out of a poppy bowl. Now she needs one that's got tall sides on it. But it's all right. She'll be back to the dog bowls next week. You know what she's like. She's just a lady who likes to change her mind every now and then. Oh, right. Let's carry on down here. Oh my, a dog that got hit by a car. Oh, patience, that's awful. That was my worst fear with Maya, because he was so strong. He snapped his first lead at 14 weeks old. He'd literally only been out the house a week and he snapped his lead. So after that, if you ever see any pictures of Lola and you wonder why she's got 2 leads on, that's why. And we also carry spare leads in the bag that we take out with food and poo bags. And how many times has that come in useful? There was a dog that was running riot on the street and you ran out with a spare lead. There was some time in the park where somebody else's lead had broken and, we said, here's a spare. Honestly, you just don't think of it, but that's Samoyeds. They can pull. I remember the guy who sold us the first lead, and I said, would a leather lead be stronger? And he said, no, look at this. And it had a tag on it, the lead, that said it could pull a train. That it might do. But the Samoyed still broke it within the week. So this is why we've got fistfuls of leads, and why she has a lead on her collar and a lead on her harness. Because at first I wouldn't say she pulled like Maya, but she can now, can't she?
She can.
Oh, yes. Yes, she's been training her little self. Right, let's carry on down here. You didn't even register as a pit mix. It's the owner. Little brown puppy. Oh. It's how they're brought up, and I think that's part of the problem, if not the main problem, to be honest. Oh, Mrs. Yarnell's seen a lot more dog leads that say nervous recently. Yeah, that's the one that Sophie's got. It's like bright yellow with black letters on and says extremely nervous. You can also get coats that are similar in a way. I don't know if they come from somewhere specifically, but definitely it says nervous dog, do not approach. It makes me wonder, where were these dogs before? Or were they just being put down? That people are now looking after them? I honestly don't know. You didn't used to see that kind of thing. But there again, people didn't used to be complete idiots and come up to your dog with a firework in the hand or something, like they would now. Nothing would surprise me these days. Nothing. Was the car boot at Over Peaver? I think it could have been.
Yeah, that's what
Massive field it was, so I think it probably was.
Peter said he thinks it was his brother's field.
Oh, wow. Yeah. We used to go past the entrance to Barclays Bank on the way, if that's any help. Because remember, I trained them with Vizia. But yeah, she loved it. She absolutely loved it. Oh, Patience has had a husky. Never had a husky. Never advanced on anyone. She indicate if she felt someone was too close. Oh, Maya was like that. Oh, he was a menace. He never ever did that with us, so I'm presuming we never had a row. But Mum and Dad had a couple of humdingers. Mike's at work and Mum and Dad are arguing the toss in the front room. And Maya he was in the conservatory at this stage, so he'd have to go through the conservatory, the kitchen, the hall, and then into the front room. Mum is giving Dad both barrels. He's shouting back at her. Well, it was all right while Mum was shouting at Dad. That was no problem. But when Dad started shouting at Mum, Maya came in like a bullet out of gun. And he dived on my dad and pushed him back on his chair. And he sat on top of him. Dad couldn't argue for laughing. And Mum's just sat there with the dog likes me more than you. Which was so funny because he was a dog person and she wasn't. But if they rowed, he was on Mum's side no matter what. Even if she was in the wrong, the dog was on Mum's side. He would protect her. And he'd stand there, and if Dad didn't back down, if he didn't sit down or lean back in the chair, Maya would make sure that he did. So it's just so funny. I wish I had video of that. That'd be brilliant. Oh, Johnny's got a drinking bowl similar to that to stop them spilling water out of it. We decided, I thought it didn't matter when we got Maya what you put the water in, but apparently it did. That's why water bowls are heavy. They're like pot and heavy, because dogs will try and upend the water when they've finished with it. That's exactly what Maya tried to do. Do you remember when we gave it to him in a little plastic ice cream carton? And when he'd finished, he just like thwacked it with his paw. I mean, he was only 7 weeks old. And it upended the water. He did it every time. I said, I think we're going to need one of those heavy bowls. And after that, he would push it and he would try. But because it was flat-bottomed, it wouldn't tip up. You see, non-dog owners do not know this. But yet we learnt fast, didn't we? Oh, hello, Tracy. Oh, so sad you're not feeling well. Oh, no. And fell asleep with Steve Jobs film on. Oh, which one was that? Good night, Renee. Oh, Tracy needs the bowl. They alternate the card boots now between Knutsford, Holmes Chapel Road. Not that far past Bath. Well, one of them was there, but we used to go to a couple up there. Mum absolutely loved them. She really did. I think it was because she didn't like the modern stuff that was about. So people would get like modern stuff, and then they'd be selling the stuff that she absolutely adored, like the poppy stuff. So yeah, she loved car boots, loved it, and Maya loved going with her. We went to one, didn't we, where he met that chow? There was a chow and it was black. Now, because he was white, he always wanted to be filthy black, and of course this dog was black. But I don't think it was that. It had a red cravat on it. And Maya didn't like dogs in cravats. So we kicked it off with that dog. Oh, what are they like? Oh, good grief. YouTube doesn't like it. Can you allow a link or not?
No.
Oh, it's just not coming through. You could try shortening it.
Oh,
Or can you copy it and paste it in? You might have to be a mod to post a link.
Yeah. I think only you and I can post links.
Stick it in Slack. There you go, stick it in Slack. Your savvy girl would move the big water dispenser. Got halfway empty, she'd push it to the sink. I have seen videos of Sammys who, you know the big American-style fridges with the ice dispenser on the front? I mean, they'd be bigger than our kitchen, wouldn't they? But I've seen videos of Sammys in Australia. They could be Poppet and the Wolfpack, couldn't they? But there's a Sammy jumping up and it pushes the little plastic thing and the ice comes out and then it sits there and eats it. It's like self-service. It's fabulous. Great, great. Thank you, Jamie. I don't know what we'd have to do to make that work, but never mind. Right, okay then. If we got no more questions on anything else, and it's been a busy old week, we will head off. So I will say good night from me.
Good night from me.
And we will both see you next time. Stay safe, guys.